going on? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the adult table. Are we on number 9? We're on number 9. That is very exciting. I appreciate everybody every time that shows up to the adult table. I appreciate all my guests. I appreciate the viewers. I just appreciate it because y'all don't know. It be hard out here in these civil rights litigation streets. It's very tough. It can be very macabre at times. So the adult table is just my place to come and link up with other adults, kick it, chill, talk. We have serious talk. We have not so serious talk. And it's almost part of it's like my therapy. I mean, I have actual therapy, but then I have this too. So I appreciate you guys like you just don't know, because it's always good to have an opportunity to kind of let your hair down and just talk, have real conversations with real people. Today was a hectic day for me. It started super early. I had magistrate court this morning, which is like where people get their initial appearances. So I am a lawyer in real life. I always say that, I'm actively practicing and actively litigating and actively in trials. So I'm not just a lawyer that doesn't actually lawyer. But I haven't been to the courthouse in a while. So they got me out to the courthouse this morning to get somebody a bond. So I did that this morning. And I just realized how much I miss the courthouse energy, like that whole vibe. So I don't know. Maybe I'll pick up some more cases so that I could go hang out in my old stomping grounds and see what's up. So we have a packed show today. We're going to have Anton Daniels, which I saw on IG earlier. You guys were excited about that. So, and I am too. So I look forward to it. I know attorney Simone Redwine is going to pull up. My boy Rillo is going to pull up. So it's going to be a super, super fun show. I want to remind you guys, of course, that we have the Shanquilla Robinson rally on May 19th. We are almost there. We're only 8 days away. It'll be in Washington, D.C. All the information is on my IG. It's on the Frontline Law page. It's everywhere. So please, if you're in DC or if you're in the area, definitely pull up, support the family. I know a lot of people are like, why are y'all doing a rally if the feds already said they've declined charges? But there's still a clear path to justice in the case, because all the United States has to do at this point, the State Department has to authorize the extradition process for that process to begin, because Mexico's already completed an investigation and named an aggressor in their case. So all the United States has to do is approve the extradition for that process to begin. And then the person who the Mexican investigators named as the aggressor in the case, which we all know who it is because she's on the video beating Shanquilla Robinson, will be extradited and be held accountable in Mexico. I also got a ton of DMs and a ton of messages and a ton of emails and calls to the office about why the feds did not charge who is being called the Cabo Six with Class H felonies for recording Shanquilla Robinson while she didn't have her clothes on and things like that. So I just want to take a brief moment just to explain. Under the treaty between Mexico and the United States for extradition, the United States authority can charge a United States citizen for a crime committed outside of the United States. They can charge them in the United States. The only crime listed on the treaty is murder. So they can't charge battery, they can't charge robbery, they can't charge burglary, and they can't charge those felonies that were mentioned. So the issue is, because they're declining murder, homicide charges, they cannot charge anything. Why they're declining murder charges when there's a video that shows it, I don't know. Obviously we don't agree with that. And the feds are currently telling me and the family directly when we're requesting the investigative documents that the case is still open, but they have declined charges. Apparently they haven't translated all the documents from Mexico yet, which I don't know how they get to the end of determining they're going to decline charges without fully translating the documents. That's not how I would run an investigation, but hey, Janet Jenkins, hey, April Gaines, hey, Norman, who is the guest? We have 3 guests. So I appreciate everybody who's in the chat. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'm still working on my getting people to do that, and saying that all the time is very awkward because usually I just want to talk. I don't want to be saying that. So I'll get used to it. But I appreciate everybody who reaches out and, is supporting the family and is supporting having accurate information put out there. And in that vein, I'm going to bring in my first guest, Anton Daniels, because he has shared accurate information on his platform about the case. And we did have an interview together recently. So I'm excited to have him on. Anton Daniels, the business coach, the influencer, the Black man, more than just a beard. Anton Daniels in the building.
What's going on, love? How you doing?
What is something, Anton, before we talk more, but what is something you wish more people noticed about you or complimented you on? Because I know you have the thing about more than just a beard.
I don't, honestly. I was telling somebody earlier that I enjoy being notorious. I enjoy being a villain sometimes. I enjoy being, the person that adds value. So I enjoy every single hat. You know what I'm saying? I think that I deserve everything that I get, the good, the bad, all of that. So I don't have anything to complain about because my life is absolutely incredible. But I think that more importantly, I think that people should more or less recognize some of the things that I stand for with regard to how it is that I live my life, because I live my life like an open book. And then in that way, they can actually take out of what it is that they like from me and then throw away the rest so that they can actually use it to benefit themselves. You know what I'm saying? Because the goal ultimately is just to pour into people. It's not necessarily to be heralded. It's not to be celebrated. That happens when you die. You know what I'm saying? I think the biggest thing is just adding value into people's lives. And I think if people took some of the things that I actually stand for with regard to how I live my life, and that could be anything, right? That could be, how I treat people in real life, the value that I add to people, failing forward, and then using that to ultimately become successful or in any way, shape, or form. I think that they could benefit greatly by learning, from some of the hard lessons that I had to go through in order to become successful. So that's probably the biggest thing. But other than that, I enjoy being a bad boy. So
well, I mean, so you're saying you feel like you wish people focus more on the lessons and the things that you're trying to teach, as opposed to focusing on the red pill thing and all that stuff.
I think that communication is 90% body language and 10% of what you say, right? So by the time I'm saying it and by the time that I'm communicating it to you, I've already done it, or my life is a reflection of it, right? And so what I'm saying is really just the cherry on top. The way that I live my life or how it is that I do things, like I would never tell somebody to do something that I haven't already done, or I haven't already mastered or exhibited, or I'm a reflection of, or anything like that, right? So I'm really on the space of, and excuse my language, of like a fuck your feelings type of thing, right? My focus is on getting down to the bottom of things, making sure that you're successful, and I'm results oriented. I don't care how I get there. I don't care if you hate me by the time we get done, as long as you get what it is that you need out of it. That's really all that matters. So, I'm cool with it.
Okay. What's up, Sherelle? Hey, Darika. I appreciate everybody that's in the chat that's liking and sharing. Okay. Well, this is an important question I ask everybody, and I might be aging myself by asking this question, but it's an important question.
You look great, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. The chat said that you brought out the Versace hoodie for me.
Oh, that's what I rock. That's my glasses. This is me.
And I was like, oh, okay. Well, if it wasn't for me, I mean, it looks great. You look great. Your lighting is great. Everything looks good.
I appreciate that.
Biggie or Tupac?
Big all day long.
Okay.
All day long. You want to know why?
Yes, of course.
All right. So I say that because Big had no misses. He had basically three masterpieces. He had the greatest album of all time, in Life After Death. And Big capitalized off the fact that he didn't have anything that he can lean on in order to try to grab the audience. He had to use his charisma. He had to use the things that other people that Pac inherently had. Pac had the good looks. Pac had the charisma. Pac had the ladies. Pac had all of that, right? But Big didn't have none of that. All Big had was a lazy eye
I
and hard
don't know.
work.
Biggie was Jamaican, and
But
so
but he didn't have what we in America. You know what I'm saying? They say that you got to be marketable to the ladies and all of that other type of stuff. Big was just like, yo, I'm me, accept it for what it is, and I'm still gonna kill the game. And so for me, Big had no misses. He had the greatest album, possibly the greatest album of all time. Pac was more influential in my life, but as I got older, I realized that the lessons that I wanted to take from it was really more related to Big. So I got to go with Big over Pac.
because 10 crack commandments. I mean, come
Correct.
on. Listen, I didn't have much to say about that because I am also Team Biggie. So everything is
That's dope. That's
accurate and agree. I say it every week. So, Biggie all the way.
dope. Yeah.
And which, Biggie and Tupac had a big beef, or it was promoted in
Well, see, it was only one-sided though, because
that
Big,
they had a beef.
he thought that they was friends. You know
Well,
what I'm saying?
that's what I feel like we learned later, but I feel like Source Magazine and Vibe Magazine and all them at the time, damn, I'm old, was making it seem like there was East Coast, West Coast beef.
But see, that's the thing. Big didn't get into that. He was more focused on the money. Pac was easily influenced. Big was focused on getting to the bag. That's why I like Big more. He wasn't getting caught up in none of the nonsense. He was focused on the results. Pac was easily influenced. Whoever it was that he was around. Listen, I'm not going to go too far into it because I know it's a lot of Pac fans out there. But whoever it was that he was around at the time, that's what he was. If he was around Digital Underground, he was doing hip hop dances. If he was around the Outlaws, he was a thug. If he was around Suge Knight and him, all of a sudden he was stomping people out in Vegas. So, I don't like those type of people. I like the type of people that actually is steadfast. They stand on what it is that they said from the beginning, and they keep it moving. They about that bag.
And the reason why it just so happens that there's another famous beef that was fraudulent. I don't know if you heard about this.
What's that?
MLK and Malcolm X, we've been learning for, in civics class that, MLK was one way and he heavily criticized Malcolm X. It's a very famous quote or whatever. Huh?
Of course they did. They beefed. Of course they did.
That they had this beef. And so it's been discovered that the most famous quote there is that Martin Luther King supposedly said to criticize Malcolm X, it's just not true. Like it was never said. Alex Haley did the interview, which already just hearing Alex Haley's name, I get traumatized because again, dating myself in high school, we had to watch Roots. I don't understand why. And I'm in Florida. If you're watching this, while you're banning things, can you ban the Roots thing? Because I don't know why they subjected us to watch.
I never watched it. I refuse.
Roots is crazy. I was like, why are we watching this? And I remember after we would watch it, there would always be these race wars and beef in school. Because I would be like, why are we watching this? But anyway,
I never watched it.
I won't go too far off track. Alex Haley did an interview for Playboy magazine with Martin Luther King. Yes, I get it. It sounds crazy, but let's picture that Playboy magazine is Vlad or whatever at the time. So he does this interview. A recent author basically reviewed the transcript of the interview, and this quote that Alex Haley put in the article saying that Martin Luther King said that Malcolm X used fiery demagogic oratory and that he made a divide between the ghettos and stuff like that. That's nowhere in the transcript. That Martin Luther King never said that about Malcolm X. That it was taken out of context. And
I don't see why it would matter though. I don't know why you gotta like somebody in order to like. I don't see it as a problem to not. I don't even agree with 100% of what my mother say. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't see the problem in disagreeing with people or not aligning with somebody based off of what it is that you think that their strategy is and it don't align with yours, I don't have a problem with that. If he didn't like him, and if he said that, yo, I don't mess with Malcolm, I don't see what the problem is.
No, I don't think there's a problem whether they had beef or not. I think the issue is that we teach in history classes that they're so divergent in their views.
Yeah.
And Martin Luther King gets whitewashed, for lack of a better words, a lot of times, and is painted as, less radical when he was in fact more radical and more aligned with Malcolm X than we've been taught, or that has been presented to us by articles such as this one. So the only reason why I brought it up with the Biggie and Tupac thing, because I feel like that was kind of that beef. It was like it was blown up into something more than what it really was. So I'm like, dang, so we gonna find out that Malcolm and Martin really was homies. They was cool and they was on the same page, but we're always taught they're so divergent because we want to, I think mainstream media and history and culture, now embraces MLK in a certain way, certain things.
Well, the interesting thing about that is that,
and doesn't embrace Malcolm X in the same way, which, by the way, his birthday is May 19th, where we're going to the rally in DC for Jingle Robinson.
The interesting thing about that, though, is if you look back in history and you really, really study their lives, a lot of Black people didn't like Martin Luther King at the time, right? What we see today is completely different than how it is that he was treated at the time that he was alive, right? And so, in addition to that, I think that in most instances, what you see is the divide between people often happens in outside sources and outside, verbiage. It's not necessarily a reflection of how those individuals see each other, but usually it's always a third party or multiple different people that contribute into the conversation that ultimately create that divide, whether it was real or not. And it's not really a reflection of how they initially felt about each other anyway. So it's no different than it is today. And it's still happening every single day. The beef that most people have is often manufactured or is instigated by people that don't even have nothing to do with what it is that they had going on at that time in the first place. So it's interesting to hear that, though.
Divergent. What does divergent just means they had different views. Like it's promoted that Malcolm X is like militant and Martin Luther King is like kumbaya, everybody. Yeah. And they were more aligned than we've been taught. He was open to more radical ideas. And I say this all the time to other people in the space, civil rights space, Ben and Lee and Chris and all of us, when we're talking, I'm like, listen, we're just the lawyers. Like, we are not the whole shit. Like, we're literally just.
Y'all catch a bad rap yourselves.
Oh.
Matter of fact, listen, y'all let me tell you something. Y'all can't have no life outside of being a lawyer. You have to maintain your professionalism. Don't say anything wild on Instagram and nothing like that. Y'all can't market yourselves any differently. Y'all are held to a much higher standard, and y'all not even really supposed to be human. Like, y'all supposed to be.
There it is.
Yeah. So, y'all go through it a lot too. Y'all get stereotyped. You ain't supposed to have no life, the whole 9 yards. So I feel sorry for you guys. You guys got it bad. Y'all got it really, really bad.
It can be crazy, but that's why, I don't even remember how long ago, probably 2016 or 2015. When I was like, everybody's like, you should go on this thing, Instagram, whatever. I was like, I don't want to go on there and just be a lawyer, just be like lawyering and whatever. Yeah. I don't want to do that because there's so much more, to my personality and other things that I do and work on and care about and passionate about outside of the law. And so that's why my Instagram is not just a lawyer and it just stayed like that. But you're absolutely right. We catch hell. If you go outside, if you do anything, you catch hell. Like, people are just waiting for something to say constantly, which is why
that's the nature of people, though.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why for a long, 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 long time, I've talked about this story before, but me and Ben had an argument on national TV at an interview, but no one knew we were arguing because we were talking like this. And he was saying, I want you to make a statement because I come, prep the families, work with the lawyers, a lot of behind the scenes stuff,
Yeah.
not like going on camera and talking for the press conferences. Cause I was like, I
Mhm.
don't want to do that. I don't want nobody picking at me. I have very thick skin. I don't have a problem, but I don't feel like being the face of the movement. Hey, Nicole, I don't feel like doing none of that. I'm going to be over here. If you need me, I'm a phone call away. And the argument was that I didn't want to make a statement behind. I think he spoke. I think Reverend Al spoke. Lee Merritt spoke. Ahmad's mother spoke. This is right before the verdict. And then he was like, okay, your turn. And I was like, what else do I have to say? Y'all, he better be guilty. What? I don't need to say nothing else.
Listen, you gotta speak. Listen, every opportunity that you can, and I know this is going to fly in the face of what people suggest, but let me tell you something. Every opportunity that you can, you create that visibility for yourself. Even in the most difficult situations, even when it's like you want to create that visibility for yourself because you are the brand. And I think that you need to stand out. You need to show yourself. You need to be more verbal. You need to be more in front of the camera and market yourself as much as you possibly can. I think you should get that visibility. I think
so. That was the exact argument. And then I promise you, Tamika came to me, hey, VJ from around the way, and was like, yo, we about to do this Shane Cola stuff. I was like, listen, I'm not going to take the normal lawyer tack and sit here and keep writing these people letters and calling on their phone. I'm going to just go to Mexico. Everybody was like, you going to do what? I was like, yeah, I'm going to just go. I'm going to go to Mexico. I'm going to talk and I'm going to see, like, can we figure out what's going on? And, after that, we had to do our press conferences and stuff. And it's very natural for me in that setting just because, I am an advocate. I do have to speak in court. It's not like I have an issue with public speaking. It more had to do with me feeling like my value in a high profile case is more behind the scenes.
Yep.
But sure enough, we did the press conference and here came the, oh my God, why is she doing this? Why she said that? I think I said
it's all good. All negative and positive feedback is positive feedback. Listen, if you use it correctly.
Whatever I have to do to get the point across that there should be accountability in Shanquilla's case. And I really do believe that this work is the most important work of our time. And so I'm extremely passionate about it. I care about it. So it's fine. I'll take the licks. I'll take people saying all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm like, it's fine. I've been through worse. I have 6 brothers, so I can handle it. It's all good. 6
brothers?
Yes, I do. So it's all good. And I was born in Miami, so
man,
it's a lot.
I'm surprised you ain't speaking Spanish by now.
I'm prepared. I'm prepared for whatever, really. And a lot of times, don't let the smooth taste fool you. That's what I try to tell people because they be like, oh my God, how is she gonna argue with people and do stuff? I'm like, when it's time for that.
Do you like litigation? What part of being a lawyer do you like most?
Okay, I became a lawyer because I wanted to be a social engineer. And I felt like all the people that were on the front lines of change were lawyers. So that's always been my focus. And when I realized the places where our people were hurt the most was because our civil rights are not honored, that's kind of why I slid into that space and became a prosecutor so that I could work on my trial lawyer skills and did a lot of criminal defense after that, because obviously as a former prosecutor, already what the other side is doing and what's happening and how to defend better, which I took a lot of criticism for becoming a prosecutor out of law school because people like, you a black woman, why are you going to work for the man? I was like, actually, we need reasonable people over there too, because prosecutor has the discretion. PD, public defender or defense attorney, a lot of times is in the client's already in triage. They've already been charged. So now you're trying to defend as opposed to having the discretion to be like, you know what? I think Ray and them was just out there with their bikes. I don't know if this was loitering.
But it's difficult for you though, because if you get the results that the people are requiring from you, that was something that they expected from you, right? But if you're a prosecutor, for example, and it's not a reflection of what the general public wants as far as from a cultural, right? Somebody gets prosecuted that they don't necessarily care for, or that was somebody else's homeboy, and it's free to guys and all of this other type of stuff, then it's like, if you do good, you were supposed to do that. But if you do something that's completely different than what the general public wants for you, then it's damned if you do or damned if you don't, right? And so you kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place by being a successful woman. Also, you pretty, so you don't fit the narrative of what most lawyers look like, right? And so it's kind of a difficult situation for you to be in because you're navigating in a space that's not necessarily dominated by women on top of that, right? And you open to the criticism because now we live in a information age and social media, which just makes you more available to the general public. And so a lot of people don't know how to navigate that space because it's still very new to a lot of people. But I say embrace it, right? Embrace all of what comes along with it because it all continues to work in your benefit if you know how to leverage it correctly. In order to continue to build your brand. I think that you can leverage that and you can be really, really great at it.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that. I think for me, the past 3 to 5 years in my career have been the most authentic because I've had to have those conversations with my colleagues and with my mentees and stuff of just saying, hey, you don't need, and especially, and the reason why it came up was because I was working a lot in the broadcast space. And the expectation of a Black woman in the broadcast space is, first of all, I literally was told, I won't tell you what network, that if I wanted to continue with the network, that I needed to cut my hair because having long hair and the Barbie look is more reserved for white women,
really,
not Black women. And so I didn't work with the network anymore, but it made me say, I'm always going to be my authentic space. Like if I'm in a press conference and I feel that the feds is capping, I might say it. I haven't, but I'm saying it is, whatever is authentic. I'm always going to present as my most authentic self. Professional.
Was it a difficult decision to walk away though? Was it a difficult decision to walk away from? So it was easy for you?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's pretty good.
Because the thing is, because of intersectionality, I'm Black, I'm a woman. We have a specific type of microaggression and oppression that's active at all times. I go to court, it's like, oh, are you the court reporter or where's your attorney? All the time. And I'm 16, 17 years in deep, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm a baby. Like people, and then usually now, the judges or other people be like, that's Sue Ann, why you don't do that? Stop tripping. But
let me ask you a question. Do you guys think that, okay, because I'm assuming because you work in the same county or work in the same district or city or whatever like that you guys go before the same judges on a regular basis. Does that relationship, in your opinion, maybe not necessarily with you, but just in general, does the relationship that you guys build with the judges, does that affect or influence what happens in a lot of these cases? Or, do you think that it's ever a bias with regard to a judge or anything like that because of the familiarity or somebody being able to be more connected with a specific judge or something like that? Do you think that affects the outcome of some of the things that happen across the United States in a lot of these cases?
I think just like any profession, your reputation is everything, but it's even more in our profession because we don't have a commodity. Our commodity is our time. So it's your time and your reputation. That's all you have. So if you have go into a courtroom and a judge knows from other judges, oh, this person's always late or they're unprofessional or they're going to argue things that are unreasonable or whatever, then that reputation is going to affect your client. If you go into a courtroom, for me, a lot of times, especially now being, this is my 17th year of practice, the judges, people that are judges now are people that were my trial partners, people that I worked with, where I've had trials against. So they've seen that I don't play. So when I come into the courtroom, with my reputation. Like people are like, oh, okay, if she's pulling up or she's filing a motion or whatever, then it comes with a certain gravitas that wouldn't have happened, 17 years ago. That is my client is gonna benefit from that as well. And that's the reason why now in my person, I don't take every single case. I don't work on every single case. You're not gonna see me out on every single case, because I know that, my reputation is following the case and the client. So I won't do that. But I absolutely think that the relationship can either benefit the client or it can hurt the client. Because if you have a bad relationship, if it's a judge that you used to work with and they know you lazy because
but a client doesn't know what your relationship is or what your reputation is with your peers.
Exactly. Man. And it really starts in law school. And I tell, whenever I have to go to law schools and speak, I'm like, look around, because these are the people that are going to be getting you jobs, turning you down for jobs, appointing you to the bench, not appointing you to the bench, giving you referrals or not giving you referrals. So from now, it starts from right now as a law student, because I know people that even when Ketanji Brown Jackson was being appointed to the bench, you saw classmates of hers from Harvard who was still mad that they didn't make law review and were taking it out of her
that's pretty crazy. And it's funny because I'm trying to figure out, how does she even get that level of visibility to then be nominated all the way up? You know what I'm saying? That high.
Because Miami.
Man, period. That's crazy. I mean, because it's so wild.
They asked if Mexico has a treaty with the U.S. for prosecution. Yes. The U.S. does have a treaty with Mexico. It was signed in 1970. And the U.S. can prosecute U.S. citizens who commit murder in Mexico. They can be prosecuted here for that.
But only for murder specifically, though, right?
Yes. But listen, the feds don't have no problem finding no charges. And I don't want to say fined, okay? Because there's a big statute book. I have a lot of them here in the office, okay? Yeah. There's some statutes. There's some things that were part of the activity, the use of cell phones. There's a group chat on WhatsApp. There's things, okay?
They're able to pull all that information, huh?
Well, if they were investigating properly, they should have that information, but remains to be seen, since we cannot get the investigatory documents because the case is still open.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I've seen it in other cases where they'll say that the case is open until all of us pass away. And then the next iteration of us is like, 20 years ago, there was this case and it's just been released, these files. And oh my God, they never even asked the Cabo 6-1 damn question, you know. But my promise to the family is we're not going to do that. We're not going to let them do that. We are not.
I mean, but that's got to be a difficult space for you to be in, though, because, you're so passionate about what it is that you're doing, especially with regard to Shanquella Robinson. But then at the same time, it's almost like an expectation that you create for yourself. And it's not even entirely in your hands, because you have to depend on the federal government or the Biden administration or the FBI to do what it is that you expecting for them to do, not based off of how well you do your job, but based off of how well they do their job in order to seek justice for the family. It's a difficult space for you to be in, as a person that is advocating for the justice and in a position that you're in as far as professionally.
Right. And you have to constantly be saying, even if these 2 steps forward are just 2 steps forward, like we just started getting convictions for officers that, kill unarmed Black men. Not convictions, arrests. We just started getting arrests. And then, oh my God, somebody got convicted. So it's like slow and steady. You have to know that the work, and even when you take your L's in the civil rights litigation space, like even when you're taking your L's, that it's setting up for a future win for someone else, even if it's not that particular case. So that's why a lot of times when people are like, oh, you didn't get to do this, or this happened, or this person didn't get arrested, or charges didn't get filed by the feds in Shanquella's case, it's like, it's cool. It's levels. You know what I'm saying? We need you to, we need It's the people's movement, obviously. And so we need the people to stay focused on progress as opposed to what's not happening. We need you to focus on what is happening and keeping, the momentum forward. So that's really the most important thing, and what makes it the most important work of our time is because it's really not for us today. All the things that we're doing, even with Shanquilla's case, it is about her for me because she's my client, her family is my client, but it's about saying, listen, we're not going to have Black women go out of town on vacation and be returned in a box and then nothing happens. That's for us, that's for future generations to be able to know that, hey, if something does happen to me, if a crime is committed against me, it's going to have the same priority, and the government is going to be as committed to something happening to me as anybody else.
Wow.
That's not for her. It's not going to happen. Listen, I got to go out of town this weekend. You know what I mean? Like anything can happen. But I want to make sure that for future generations, we have this situation resolved. So if I have to write 100 letters, go to DC 100 times, meet with Biden, meet with the administration, and be like, y'all really don't get it. Really?
Yeah.
Then that's what it is. That's what it is. Let me bring in Cirillo, fellow FAMUan.
What's going on?
The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah,
what's going on?
We're real friends now, so I'm excited about that because we've only been friends online.
That's right. True friends, not real friends. Appreciate you having me on. And what's good, bro? Shout out to
What's going on, bro?
Family. Yeah, the whole family, man. It's funny because me, Sue, and April and CJ, some folks you may or may not know, but we've been really behind the scenes trying to get another show going.
Yes!
But I'm glad to be here for this show and join y'all on this good old what was it, Thursday night? Thursday
night. Yep.
And I haven't really done much of this because I was working in the city of Baltimore, recently resigned from my director of comms position, and so now I'm a bit more freer these days, thankfully, and I get to go back doing what the hell I like doing, with just talking shit on air. So,
no, you be speaking to the people. You be spreading the truth. We appreciate you, Rillo. We really do. And he can grill some wings. I heard.
Oh, I mean, I do a little more than that, but yeah, I mean, that's one of the things. You know what I mean?
Don't you have an event where you have to like grill thousands of pounds of food?
Oh yeah. Brown looking chicken, man. If y'all in we're gonna try and have it in Baltimore this year. So if y'all in Baltimore, y'all should definitely come out. Come vibe, man. Brown looking chicken is gonna be the 6 years in existence. I think that folks that come around this time should expect
that's pretty dope.
A whole lot more, man. A whole lot more. So shout out to Brown looking chicken and all my cousins out there who've been investing their time, their energy, and love into the space, because that's real, man. It's hard to get folks to show up, 10 folks to show up to your shit. And I'm blessed to have people come out and show love in a real big way. And so I appreciate that.
Salute.
Yeah.
That's dope.
I can't go because if I'm anywhere having fun, that'll be a problem. But
hey, look,
I
I'm gonna tell you,
support it.
No, look. I'm gonna tell you. Look, I got something for you too. So CBC weekend, September 20th. Mark your calendars. We coming back with our second official Congressional Black Caucus annual legislative conference 2023 with our dear brother Rep. Andre Carson from Indiana. You know what I mean? So he's gonna be up there. By the way, y'all, this is the celebration of 50 years of hip hop. So that means that if you coming in,
are you a hip hop head?
Come on, man. So September 20th is gonna be live, y'all. So if y'all coming,
you a hip hop head, huh?
Yeah, man. I do a little.
I don't believe you.
I don't believe you. I tell you what,
though. We're not doing the freestyles tonight, okay?
I tell you,
we're not doing the freestyles tonight. That's another show.
All right. We ain't gonna do it. But I tell you what,
doesn't know, and I don't even remember if Rillo was there during COVID. Me and Lee Merritt and Timothy Welbeck, who's not on tonight, had Freestyle Fridays for the lawyers, the civil rights edition.
Oh, word.
In Clubhouse. Because we were so like, we were like, okay, we finna just freestyle on Fridays. That's it. AJ Calloway came and hosted it. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was legendary. It was legendary.
As a lawyer that did the opposite of what Sue did, which is I went straight into policy. I didn't really I didn't do the whole
Why would
come
you do
out
such a
presence
thing?
law. Well, honestly, it's funny because I went in there, I'll tell you this. Look, Sue got this real nice story about what she wanted to do when she got to law school. She wanted to be a
Mhm.
social engineer, and that's cute. That's what's up.
Oh, it's
I
cute
went
now.
in.
Okay.
I went in because I wanted to make bread. Like nobody in my family had no terminal degrees. I wanted to do something. I just felt like, hey, like there's gonna be something I'm gonna do. I didn't know
Right.
exactly what I want to do with it, but I know I want to make money. I mean, I knew it was an
Mhm.
avenue for me to make money, and it's always gonna be. And I'm a hustler at heart, so I was just like, you know what? It's a hustle kind of gig. I can get with
Mhm.
that, and so I'll try to find a way to parlay my degree into some kind of profession. And it went from like sports entertainment law. And I always tell the story because a brother that was a former president of the Black Law Student Association uh, came to my school and he invited me to CBC. And because of CBC and my exposure to it and the whole vibe, just being an entire weekend, man, like I was like, nah, bro, DC where I'm supposed to be at. And
Mm.
came to DC, bro. I never looked back. I thought I was going to Cali and have this whole career in sports entertainment law, bro. I went to Eugene, Oregon, University of Oregon for the inaugural Sports and Law Institute. Shout out to Robert E. Lee, man. What up, E. Lee?
Mm.
And decided to do otherwise, bro, and really do something that is, I feel, material to a lot of our lives in terms of policy and implementation of policy and making sure they got the right minds to be able to understand and read beyond the four corners of a piece of paper and understand that what that means, for our people specifically. And so, that was once I understood that, right, and words do matter in a real way, and it wasn't just some theoretical thing somebody told you in the book or in the classroom. When you got to sit down and actually understand and see how politics at the highest level actually operates, it's a bit different. And then secondly, what I want to say is too about the old Supreme Court nomination process, and whether you on Supreme Court or the district court level or appellate level, it's politics. Like you still got a network,
Right. That's
and
what
you
I was
still
gonna say.
have
I
to.
was like, Rillo, you saying you did the opposite of me. And I feel like you ran head first into the damn beast going running up with the legislatures and stuff. That's
You
I
know,
so
didn't.
the thing about it though is like as I'm hearing y'all talk, first you, Suan, and then you, Rillo, right? Everything that y'all telling me, because even when I asked the question about specifically reputation and judges and interactions and who it is that you knew in law school and all this other type of stuff, the entire conversation is based off of the same thing that we experience in corporate America, which is it's the relationships. People do things also because they like you, not necessarily just because you're the best at what it is that you do. Reputation supersedes. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. All of these things are basically surrounded by A, sales, and then B, politics, right? If people don't like you and you're unable to get along with the necessary folk in order to really be able to get the results that you want, then you're not going to be as effective and your talent is not going to carry you where you're not culturally accepted as far as your ability to be able to work with other people. And so everything that y'all telling me right now and what y'all describing is basically politics.
right.
All of it.
Everything.
If somebody tell you they don't do politics, that's crazy to me. Because even if you don't think you're doing politics, if you somebody trying to scale, you got to understand the politics of your own profession. It
Right.
don't necessarily mean that politics and folks running for office and you understand policy. But at the end of the day, there's some policy that's reenacted, promulgated, mandated, however you want to say it, that's guiding whatever you do in life, right? Whether
Absolutely.
you want to believe it or not. And
Yeah.
I'm not the first person to say this, and I won't be the last person to say this.
Mhm.
But I just feel like a lot of times we are led astray by folk that sound good and they talk a good game, but in reality, I do believe like sometimes I listen to folks, I'm like, man, we gotta. It's a yes and thing. I think a lot of times we gotta be either this way or that way. We gotta either be an advocate or an activist. But I'm like, yo, we need it all. I think that
That's true. There are
we gotta
many,
burn
there are
it.
many paths to the revolution. I don't want to forget because I have to bring in my sister in the law,
Come
attorney
on,
Simone Redwine,
bring it on in.
because she's here waiting, and we all are in depth discussion. And I know attorney Simone Redwine is going to bring her vibes to the conversation. She's going to give us life. Here she is, attorney Simone Redwine,
What's going on,
my
love?
sister-in-law in the building. What's up, boo?
What up?
She muted, I think. I think she muted.
Oh
Nah, she not muted.
I couldn't hear her.
Oh no, she is
Here we
muted.
go.
Oh, yeah.
There we
Okay.
go.
There we go.
There she is.
Hi,
no!
guys.
I am so happy to see you as always.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, girl. I'm just getting back from Mexico. Yes, that questionable little country, bless their hearts. Yes, that's why I am all tanned and burnt like a lobster. But I couldn't not at least stop by and come through. And I wanted to say, I don't know if I'm saying it right. Is it Cirillo?
Oh,
Or Rilla?
yeah, it was good. Nah,
So nice to
Cirillo,
meet you
Rillo.
in person.
I
I've been
know.
like following you
It's
and I feel
been.
like I know you. Yes,
I
I
think
feel
I
like
think at least for the last like 2 years. So I mean, shout out to all
Yes.
your success.
Thank you.
It's been a blast to watch. So I appreciate you. But I think
Y'all got this
you
whole
know,
family
do
thing,
your
this
thing.
family vibe going on
Welcome
with y'all.
to the family,
I
Anton.
see y'all working together, having a good time,
Yes.
waking up with each other in real life.
Yep,
And
in
Anton,
real
I'm a bit
life.
familiar with your work too. So I just wanted to say, I'm so glad that I could join the both of you guys
Shout
here
out to you.
tonight. Thank you. Thank
Listen,
you.
I've got so caught up in the conversation. I missed a whole segment of the show, which is the what the bleep person of the week. And it's really two people. The first person will be Fast. Tory Lanez talking about what Antoine was asking about. He gets denied a new trial, and then he's over here telling the black judge, "Oh, I could be your son," or whatever the case may be. While he had Jose Baez, shout out to Jose Baez for taking that case. People, I know Jose's phone be ringing because people be like, you know what? He got Casey Anthony off. I'm gonna call Jose.
I don't understand honestly the whole look. And you know what's funny is though, if Tory Lane says I could be your son, you're right, you could be, but you're not. And I also think that you did some things.
Rillo's one of them rough judges.
Yeah,
You
my
can't
son ain't
like-
shooting women.
But you're
Like,
not.
yeah, I mean, we not, yeah, but you're not, bro. Like, I mean, we could be a lot of things, but we not. And I think
But
that what
you're
you should have been, I think what he should have been was actually somebody that was a decent human being, right? And knowing that I'm gonna pull a gun on somebody and think you telling a joke, and then by you telling a joke, somebody is harmed and a community is harmed, and then you think you're gonna walk away from it like scot free. I just don't understand in what world you think that that's actually a thing. So I don't know. For folks out there still supporting Tory,
He thinks that
it's
it's
weird.
a thing because the victim of the crime was a black woman. And so therefore he's like, what's the big deal? I don't get it. Because
I'm a black man, it's a black woman, you know what I'm saying? It's all family. I should just be let go. Like, no, bro. You gotta sit down.
Well,
So
I
go
mean,
sit down somewhere and that's
he
it.
knew that based on the intersectionality of the victim, Meg the Stallion, that the court of public opinion would throw her under the bus way before they even looked at any evidence or knew anything. He was like, well, what Megan doing there? And is she sleeping with him? And is da-da-da-da-da, as opposed to, wait, she got shot.
You think so?
Got
You
injuries.
think so?
What? That happened in real time. That's really what happened.
I gotta disagree with you on that one.
People are really doubting her story and saying like it's something else.
Well, before they ever even went to trial, I seen her doing an interview with Gayle King.
Correct.
Right? Like,
and what did she say?
Well, here's the thing though. You know, after she did the interview with Gayle King for Tory Lanez, it was guilty until proven innocent. And so when you start to have the conversation and you look at it holistically, right? Because what it was that came out during a trial was completely different than what it is that she communicated to Gayle King, right? She volunteered the information. When Gayle asked her the question and said, yo, did y'all even have any kind of sexual relationship? She said no. And then her story changed, right? And so
that's not a volunteer though.
Well, but here's the thing. No, it is a volunteer because she can choose not to answer the question. She wasn't on trial, right? This was a voluntary interview that she didn't have to show up for. So when you start to have that conversation and you say the court of public opinion prior to her actually going, the trial actually, coming to fruition.
The reason why she went to the court of public opinion is because Tory was releasing songs. He was releasing songs addressing the facts of the case. And she was like, hold on. And to me, the part of the story that always gets lost, of Megan's story that gets lost, aside from the fact that she got shot and actually had injuries and went to the hospital and was treated for a gunshot wound. Aside from that, which is probably the most important part, she says, hey, when the incident first happened, because it was in the thick of the George Floyd protests and everything that was going on with black men and police and all this stuff, I lied because I didn't want Tory to be, swept up in that. I was protecting a black
I don't believe her.
Okay.
I don't believe her even a little bit. Because here's the thing. A lie is a lie. A lie is a lie is a lie, right?
Listen,
and so when I have to hear somebody say that they lied, it then starts to, for me, it feeds into the credibility of how do I know what you're telling the truth about and what you're lying about, right? Because for me, I try to be objective enough to remove my opinion about what I feel about Tory and whether I like his music or not, or what I feel about Meg and whether or not I like her music or not. I then start to subconsciously, even if somebody in real life, right? If somebody in real life come in and they say, okay, I did X. And then tomorrow they say, you know what, but it was really Y. And the only reason that they telling me that is Y is because I caught them in a lie of X. Then I have to start questioning every single thing that happened prior to that. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, what else did they lie about? Because the credibility of
the problem is at the end of the day, she actually had an injury. So it's one thing if you want to say how steps in the process were inaccurate, but the problem is she really got shot.
No, I feel you on that.
So the issue is she really has an injury. She really is a victim of a crime. And she's telling her story as a victim of a crime. She's saying, look, I didn't want him to get in trouble. I wasn't even trying to do all this and have to come to Gayle King and have to go before the public and
it's a problem.
Involve my career. I wasn't trying to do that. But the reason why she has to do that is because of exactly what happens, which is the victim blaming, the victim shaming, the whatever. She's worrying about that instead of worrying about the fact that she's injured. Her first instinct.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
I don't want to cause drama for my career. I don't want my career to go down. I don't want to have all these problems. So I have to create some sort of narrative around what happened to me, as opposed to I'm gonna just say whatever happened and it is what it is, because I know that I'm going to be supported regardless.
I don't like that. And the reason why I don't like it is because too often we see men on a regular basis. I think men are the biggest victims, largely with regard to how it is that we've empowered women and just said, believe all women inherently without any evidence. Like I'll give you an example. If you take the Duke lacrosse team, they lost everything, right? Just from a woman accusing them and then coming back and saying, okay, I lied, but everything, their reputation was ruined, their lives was ruined, their scholarships was taken, everything was upended, right? If you look at, there's a recent paternity test, right, over in Detroit, where a woman basically is lying on a guy, and the only reason that they determined that she lied is because she had to come in and take a DNA test in order to prove that the child actually wasn't the guy's. Now, this guy said he's never met her before, right? She literally just named him. He's married. You don't know what was happening in his household. His check was about to start being garnished, right? And every day we see guys getting released from prison now that we have the technology in order to go back and determine whether or not some of these guys actually committed the crimes that they were accused of. And these are laws that advocated against as far as updated, even in the family court laws that were established decades and decades ago, that guys are being railroaded for. And then at the end of the conversation, we don't hold women accountable for the lies that they told in order to protect their reputation that they then threw the guy under the bus for. And so I think that the victims are really the guys, because inherently what we see happening is saying, and the Me Too movement is cool, believe all women inherently, but then we don't even question We don't even question, and it's guilty until proven innocent, especially in a time in which we live in social media, because you're already
it literally was not guilty until proven innocent. It literally,
but it's not just Meg,
like,
right?
it literally was like free Tory from the jump, and still is apparently. But
because our legal system is supposed to be set up to where you are supposed to be getting a trial, and it is supposed to be innocent until proven guilty.
And he was convicted.
But he was already convicted in a court of public opinion way before he hit the trial. And the worst part about social media today and the times in which we live in is that nothing is hidden anymore. And so everybody is influenced before you ever even hit the courtroom, including all of the jurors, because they're influenced by what's happening in society.
Simone, what you gonna say?
Yeah. I wanted to add something that's important also for like the viewers to consider, which is that yes, Megan lied when she said they had never had a sexual relationship. However, what's important to note is that she didn't lie on the stand. She didn't perjure herself. So as we're thinking about, well, what did the jury hear and how did the jury come to this conclusion? You have to recognize that the jury heard her say, yes, I was messing with my best friend's man. And she did admit that. So while we see that as liars, I'm just saying jurors may have processed that differently.
Yeah, because trust me, I've tried hundreds of jury trials, and the only thing Black people do when they come to jury duty is try to go home. And it's very irritating to me. I cannot say as an attorney, hey guys, we need you here because you have the life experience and to help us resolve this case between Ray Ray and Pookie. So can you please hang out? No, I can't do that. But I choose juries a lot, and Black people self-eliminate themselves. They say they got to go home. They got to take they need a diabetes medicine. They cannot be on the jury because they got to take care of these kids. I'm a teacher. I'll be in testing. I cannot be on the jury. And it boggles my mind because these are the same people who complain about the results of cases. They'll be like, oh, how come this person got locked up for 40 years and now they letting them out? And they knew it's like, because no one who had your life experience was looking at the facts of the case and was a judge of the facts, because during jury selection, you said that you needed to leave because your sugar was raised or you needed to do something else other than be there for your brother or your sister that you're now complaining, is locked up. So the jury thing is very sensitive.
Do you think that people are biased?
Because I constantly have to deal with Black people, African Americans sitting on jury panels and saying God told them they can't sit on a jury because of their religion. They can't judge other people when they're not judging anyone. They're judging facts of a case. So it has nothing to do with your religion. But
do you think that people are inherently biased?
So the people who are in the court of public opinion, the loudest, will never be on the jury anyway.
Do you think that people are inherently biased?
Of course.
All people.
Yeah, of course. That's natural. It's just based on your life experience. But when you're on a jury, what you're asked to do is put your bias aside and review the facts of the case and decide whether or not the facts of the case fit and whether or not the prosecutor has proven whatever they have to prove, whatever the crime is.
I think that as great as our legal system is compared to other countries, I think that our legal system is inherently flawed, because I don't think that even though you can ask somebody to put away their bias, it's impossible. It's literally an impossible task to ask somebody to unprogram themselves and look at something objectively in order to determine the fate of another human being. I don't think it's possible. I don't think anybody can remove their bias.
I agree with you in terms of the flaws, because nothing's perfect, especially when it involves humans, right? Because if we wanted the system to be perfect, we would just get AI, we would put the facts into the machine and then see if it pops out guilty or innocent. But that's not what we have. We have a system where you're supposed to be judged by a jury of your peers. And Correct. The issue is, most of the time at the defense table, it is a person of color. And unfortunately, most of the time, the people in the jury are not actually there in peers. They have no idea. They never been in the situations they've been in. They've never had to hustle for anything. They have no idea what their life experience is about. So they're judging facts and applying them to the law and not able to bridge the gap that you're talking about, the human experience. They're not able to do that because they don't understand anything about the person. They don't have the bias. So I think that
but here's the problem though.
I always say in jury selection, we're not asking you to strip away your humanity and become a computer. Your life experience is exactly what makes you valuable as a juror. You just have to be honest with the attorneys when they say, is your life experience going to stop you from being able to look at the facts objectively and look at the law objectively?
I think that your life experience is what makes you flawed, though. I think that's exactly what makes you flawed. Because I'll give you an example. Why did you become a lawyer?
To be a social engineer.
Social engineer in what way?
To be at the forefront of progress for our society, for equality, for people to be treated fairly, things like that.
Specifically for Black people, though, right?
I think it was based on my experience as a Black person, but I represent people that are
you can't remove the bias that you have in favor of Black people.
What happened?
So you can't remove the bias that you have in favor of Black people because that is one of the inherent reasons why you became a lawyer.
That I have bias in favor of Black people?
Correct. Because you want equality, right? Equality is because you see a gap based off of your life experiences or the things that you see on a regular basis between what you think is fair and unfair, specifically with related to people of color, correct?
Right.
So inherently, you are biased, and we all are in one way, shape, or another, right? If I grew up, because the problem with people is that nobody truly knows who this person is, even though we're selecting them and we saying that they're a jury of our peers. Nobody is really a jury of your peers, right? Simply because I don't know if that person grew up and his mother was getting her ass kicked by his father, or
but you would know. But you would know. That's the entire purpose of voir dire. That's the purpose of it. You are getting to those questions. You are asking about
but that's
the person's
assuming
life
that people are honest, and people are not honest, right? They're not.
I'm gonna tell you.
They're not honest.
Therefore, there, man, you'd be surprised, man. Now, while I'll say that many folks are like totally honest, people are generally honest about things. If you ask them straight up questions, I guess I've seen it enough where, like, if somebody says, "Hey, this case is about somebody getting into an accident or whatever like that. Have you been in an accident?" Most folks who got in an accident will say, "I got into an accident." If you say this case is about somebody doing something like that, and you try to, it's almost like an outer to inner limit kind of like line of questioning and like what it is. And like usually you can kind of like in some way, shape, form, or fashion drill down, like maybe not to the 100th percentile, but I think like for the majority of it, folks will generally tell you like their life experiences and what they've been to, and the type of biases that they bring to the table. And notwithstanding that, though, that doesn't necessarily mean that you could be kicked off the jury, because as Sue said in the beginning, you're asked at the very end, is this something that can actually affect your decision-making process during this trial? And if you answer in the affirmative, yes, it will, or no, it will not, and I can actually go forward without being biased, then we have to take that as true. And I think that a full circle moment back to the Tory Lanez case, though, is that all these cases have their own set of facts, right? And I don't want to get away from the actual set of facts we had in this particular case with Tory Lanez. I think it's undisputable that Tory Lanez was the actual trigger man, right? I think it's undisputable what the three eyewitnesses said that they saw that night. I said, now we can sit up here and talk about what Larry, Curly, and Mo may or may not have seen, but we don't have exculpatory evidence or refuting that testimony. Now, if somebody would have came forward and said, you know what though, Mo over there, that motherfucker, I ain't no way in the world he saw that, because I know it was out and I saw this too. But there was nothing in there really to actually like muddy the waters in this particular case. And it wasn't like Tory Lanez came forth. Bro, his team it was the first case I saw where they was just literally throwing stuff at the juror, hoping they actually like kind of like didn't see through the actual like I guess deflections. But at the end, I think when it boiled down to it, all the public humiliation, all of the quote unquote lying beforehand, I think when they got down to it and the facts were laid out and they lined up to the elements were satisfied
What
beyond a
makes something
reasonable
a
doubt.
fact?
It was the
think
fact
that
he was convicted. I think
Hold on,
that-
no. Because you saying that the facts are laid out, but everything that you just said is based off of the opinion or the assumption that all of these people are telling the truth. That's not a fact.
I tell you
That's
this.
not, that's their perspective. Listen, I see people every single day say their truth. What does that mean? What does it mean to say your truth? That's not a fact. A fact is something that both of us can agree on, can't be changed. And even your perspective of what you think happened is not a fact. It's based off of your perspective and your bias. And then often at times, listen, you can play a game of telephone and you can say a specific phrase and a specific word. And by the time it go around to 10 people, it's going to be completely different by the time that they recommunicate it back to you. Right?
I agree with what you're saying. I agree with the theory of what you're saying. But if the issue is in a jury trial, there's always going to be evidence that's only a eyewitness testimony. So if what you were saying was true and followed through the system, then no one who was robbed or raped or a crime committed against them where there isn't a camera, you wouldn't be able to prosecute, because you would be like, well, there's no camera there, so we can't go forward with the case. But you would know, that your grandmother or your mom or your sister or whoever is like, this is what happened to me.
The problem with that is that
so
I don't believe that anybody should go to jail.
There's always going to be testimonial evidence introduced in a trial, and that's why you have the jury. The jury has to weigh the evidence and say, okay, you know what? She was honest about XYZ, or he was honest about XYZ, or this is how they presented themselves, because they are using their life experience. If you have people on the jury that are teachers, or I always ask the people are parents and they've had to mediate between kids, like who's telling the truth and who's not telling the truth. I'll always have parents on juries because they are able to kind of do that navigation, and they understand having to weigh testimonial evidence, because they got to listen to one kid and what one kid said, and then listen to the other kid, and then decide, make a decision. That's what you're doing. It's not kids, but there's always testimonial evidence. And then the idea is that the prosecution, the state, is supposed to have corroborating evidence, other witnesses, video evidence, if it's possible, DNA evidence, if it's possible. But the core of the case is always going to be an accusation. That's always going to be the start. And then there's always going to be testimonial evidence. That's what they're sitting there doing. They're testifying.
But the problem is that testimonial evidence alone should not be the core by which somebody determines whether or not somebody should have to spend their life or even several years paying for something. And this is why we see so many people.
Tori's DNA on the gun. Not that I feel like getting
because
into thing.
But see, y'all missing it is because this is bigger than Tory Lanez.
I agree.
The thing that I'm introducing into this conversation is there's factors that we're not considering that is influencing what happens. And one of them is social media, and another one is the court of public opinion, in which we are not trying to add that into the conversation as a factor. And then we're starting to lean on how it is that we've always done things based off of what happened in yesteryear. But it is a factor, and it is a contributing factor. And the fact that we only lean on testimony mainly in order to substantiate whether or not somebody should be convicted is a problem, because I think that testimony should be secondary. As a matter of fact, it should be complementary in addition to the evidence, considering that we have so much technology and we have to take into consideration the court of
Anton, that's very unreasonable.
Hold on.
Crimes occur all the time,
and
there's only eyewitnesses. So
and the problem with that is that people are fallible. And I would never personally ever put somebody in a position to where I would make them go to jail for the rest of their life with the possibility, even a small possibility, that they did not commit the crime, because I see too many people, especially participating with the Innocence Project today that are being released from prison that didn't even do the crime. And they spending decades and decades in jail. And we see people being thrown under the jail when their life is completely ruined and we don't have a respawn moment, right? This is not a video game. They don't get a second opportunity to be able to come back and say,
I'm not advocating for wrongful convictions. I'm saying, obviously, I participated in 2 seasons of a show called Wrong Man, where we got people who were saying, people send in letters every day to the firm. I get hundreds and hundreds of letters, people saying I'm innocent, I didn't do it. We review the cases. We reviewed the cases on the show, and we exonerated people on the show. So I don't want anything I'm saying to be construed as me saying I think that the system is perfect and that people are not wrongfully convicted all the time. What I'm saying is that there's always going to be testimonial evidence in a case, that the idea is that the jury is supposed to weigh that testimonial evidence, and the time and the place that it goes down for the attorneys to decide, are these people going to be able to weigh this, is in voir dire, because you're not going to have someone who's the victim of domestic violence, somebody who's had certain experiences in a case where they're dealing with that exact thing, because then they're going to have that bias. And that's what you ask in voir dire. Is this going to affect you? Are you going to be able to look at the facts of the case and judge the facts of the case and apply the law? So that's all I'm saying. Like I said, I absolutely participated in a whole series about wrongful conviction and exonerating people based on touch DNA, which, you know, our generation loves DNA, but it really is, you know, there's a lot of problems with that based on tool marks and tire marks and footprints and all kinds of things. So I deeply understand things that are improper and wrong in the law. My issue with the particular case that we're talking about with very specific facts are that there's pieces of the story that are overlooked. I'm not saying there weren't people that were Team Megan and people that were Team Tory, or that Tory should go to jail for the 20 years that he's facing. I don't think that either. I think they should honestly be asking Megan, you know, what she thinks. And as a former prosecutor, that's always what I took into the courtroom during sentencing. To the extent that we would get to sentencing, it would be, what does the victim want? And sometimes you have victims that say, listen, you know, I don't think they should go to jail. I think they should be on probation, or I think they should go to therapy, or I think they should have to take anger management, or whatever the case may be. That's always taken into consideration by the judges and the prosecution. And sometimes you have people that say, listen, this person killed my family member, I want them to be under the jail. But I think the victim's thoughts and feelings about the case should be taken into consideration. And I think that people have to consider the fact that there was an injury, and notice there were no cameras inside of the Tory Lanez inside of that trial. So we're all functioning and going off of the reports. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying that we didn't actually see what the testimony was and how the jury was perceiving it. So we're getting all of that information in a different way. We're not getting it directly when we're making our judgments about, oh, well, she did this.
But we don't even really know what the facts are then.
What do you mean?
We don't know what the facts are.
You mean what was introduced to the jury?
Listen, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know who was influenced by who. We don't know. Literally, there was a woman that came in, because we're only using testimony from several people. But there was a woman that came in that was allegedly, right? Because none of us was actually in the courtroom, that allegedly testified on behalf of Tory Lanez, that completely refuted what Megan said happened, not only what it is that she said happened prior to the case happening in the court of public opinion, but also what she said happened during the trial, right? But we're completely ignoring that part of the conversation in order to substantiate the idea that we think that he did something based off of testimony and no additional evidence to support it. And so what I'm saying is that I don't know whether he did it or not.
How do you feel about the fact that Tory has not testified?
I'm not going to ignore the fact that we all can agree that she's a liar. We know that for a fact. because she had two different stories based off of what it is that she communicated, not only in interviews, but also to the general public. And then what it is that she said on trial in order to not perjure herself. We know for a fact that she's a liar, but we don't know whether or not he really did anything because none of us actually have any evidence to support that.
If Tory Lanez testified, right? And Tory Lanez was like, listen, I don't know what she's talking about. I was, seated in the passenger side of the vehicle the entire time. I have no idea what she's talking about. Matter of fact, I was asleep when all this happened. If he came and testified and said that to the jury, and then the rest of the facts were as they were saying, in terms of the eyewitnesses saying he's the one who shot the gun, and then the expert witness that came in and said they couldn't say his DNA wasn't on the gun or was on the gun. It was not, it couldn't be determined. Then what? Then what do you do? Because it's the same thing you're saying, because now Tory's testifying on his own behalf. It's only testimonial evidence. So do you say, okay, well, we believe Tory?
I don't think that anybody should be convicted without 100% being sure that this is exactly what happened. I think that anytime that you have a question mark, we have to do better as a society, or somehow, some way do better as a justice system to actually be able to substantiate whether or not this is true or not. And I don't know if it takes more time in order to find more evidence. I don't know what that looks like. But I know one thing, I don't like people going to jail. And this is, for me, this isn't about Tory Lanez. This is about everybody that doesn't even have the visibility that Tory Lanez has. This is about the guy that gets accused of something and then he takes a plea deal because he's afraid in order to stand before a jury trial because he don't want to get football numbers, right? This is about regular everyday people that are afraid because they know that they're about to get that lawyer that got them slip-ons on, and he a public defender, and he's saying, listen, just cop the plea, because you know what I'm saying? He facing them football numbers and he don't want to get convicted, even though it's a possibility that he probably or might have not even been guilty of that in the first place, right? And so I see the flaws on the outside looking in, working with a lot of these guys of the justice system. I see the trumped up charges that I see get thrown at men on a regular basis in order to get them to cop the pleas, because they're throwing the book at them and they're facing life with the trumped up charges, and they're not trying to not see their kids or ever go home with the possibility of no parole. I see that on a regular basis. And so
I am 100%.
If we say that there's no bias
to trumped up charges, I agree with you. I think the state overcharges people all the time. I think that the issue in this particular case, and we can absolutely put it to rest because we're still on the first What the Bleep Person of the Week, is that he is now convicted, right? So we're going from the standpoint of his conviction, and the standard in order for him to have a new trial is there has to be new evidence. It has nothing to do with the court of public opinion, our theories on the case. It's whether or not something different than what occurred at the trial can be introduced in order for him to say, I should get a new trial. And they didn't introduce any new evidence. The second What the Bleep Person of the Week is Daniel Penny. Daniel Penny is the former U.S. Marine who killed a houseless person by putting him in.
Wasn't that in New York?
Huh? Was
that in New York?
Yes, Mr. Neely. Yeah. And it's on video. He is putting him in a chokehold. There's a black person there and some other black people that are watching it. Obviously, it's on the subway, so it's in the open. And he wasn't arrested on scene. He went to sleep in his bed that night after Jordan Neely was killed. And, it's an unpopular opinion, but there's a lot of people currently in New York. Obviously, they're protesting, they're marching. It's a big deal. A houseless person is killed on the subway he has mental health issues. He did not directly threaten or become violent or touch any person or the person who actually ended up killing him. But his sentence was death for being houseless on the subway. And the person who did it went home and slept in their bed that night. He only now today, actually, earlier today, was charged with manslaughter for killing Jordan Neely. But I don't know, Anton, if you were on the bus and you put somebody in a chokehold, I don't know. If you were on the subway and you put someone in a chokehold, I don't know that you would, sleep in your bed that same night.
And the question is there enough evidence there to say, okay,
right? It's on video.
Is there enough evidence there for you? Because I mean, for me, it's like this. Like, I try to, as somebody who worked in like this, have done civil rights work, you know what I mean, and worked on trial, like, bro, I think everyone up on this panel can affirmatively say that this criminal justice system is inherently flawed. That's for sure. But I do believe that there are some folks that should be locked the hell up in jail. You know what I mean? And I think there are clear cases in which they should be. There are cases in which, look, and real quick on the Tory Lanez thing, I want to say this. If Tory had another thing to prove his innocence, I just want to say this because I feel like for everybody out there, man, still talking about this case because I'm tired of it. If Tory had a real thing that would exonerate him today, I guarantee you he'd already put forth the evidence right now.
But then again, you
with all the resources.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Look, hold on. Look, we done heard you talk. What I'm saying
okay, you're right.
Look, all I'm saying is that with all the resources, you talked about his resources. If imagine the brother just had this, imagine the brother just had that. But imagine the brother that got all the resources and you still can't find a shred of evidence to say, hey, man, I want a motion for a new trial because I have this in my back pocket and I didn't put forward that. Right? And look, if you got it, brother, bring forward the evidence and we'll go ahead and relitigate the whole thing. We'll bring back Megan. We'll make her re-testify, all the witnesses and everybody, right? But if you don't, and if he doesn't, then it's a wrap for that. Now, we can talk about all the brothers and sisters who've been wrongly convicted right now, who dealing with the Innocent Project, who working with programs like Reform, right? Who caught up in the actual penal system with probation fines and stuff like that. We can talk about those things. But we can also about the fact that Tory Lanez is in fact guilty. Then we can say that and then move on. That's what I'm saying. Like I think we should look at this like as a this is going to be this and this is going to be that, and we're trying to like transpose these facts onto this case and what happened. Look, there are certain cases where people are just guilty and that's it. I mean, look, we went to the court of law, we've sifted through the evidence, the jury has weighed the facts, we've allowed both sides to put on their case in chief, and guess what? If you ain't got the evidence on your side, it ain't about the facts and time. You're right. It's about what you can prove. And if Tory Lanez can prove his innocence, then by God, brother, prove your innocence. But in this case here, he can't. And so we look forward to the sentencing of Tory Lanez, and we'll see you on the
I'm
side,
surprised at you, Rillo.
Why so?
Because you're a lawyer, right?
What about it?
I didn't think that the evidence was supposed to be proving your innocence. I thought it was supposed to be proven. You're supposed to use the evidence in order to prove that you was guilty.
What I'm saying is, though, that look, we know in this country, and I will flat out say it, bro. In this country,
hold on. Let's not skip over that. You literally are showing your bias based off of how it is that I described the fallacy amongst people and their inherent ability in order to be able to see things objectively. Mainly because your narrative, the very way in which you're communicating right now with regard to Tory Lanez, shows that you're biased because you're not even speaking according to how the justice system was supposed to be designed in the first place, and that it's innocent until proven guilty, and you're supposed to use the evidence in order to convict me, not the evidence in order to be able to free me.
I think that, let me tell you something. I think that because of an inherently flawed system, I think most people, when they go in here, bro, because of the accusatory nature, the way it's designed, is that even though they say in theory it's innocent until proven guilty, I believe that you're guilty until proven innocent.
But it's not about what you believe. It's about what the principles of the justice system was built on in the first place. And this is you're literally a reflection of what it is that I'm communicating, because it's not about what you believe. It's about what the justice system is supposed to say. Hold on. He's proving my point.
But you don't have to offer a defense.
He's proving my point, though.
You don't.
It's not about what you think. It's about what the justice system is supposed to be and stand for. It's not about what I think. It's not about what you think. It's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, not guilty until proven innocent. So it's not about how you feel or what you think.
This is what I know is I know that he can't put forth any evidence to prove otherwise. That's what I know. That's what I know.
Wild. This is wild.
That's what I know.
This is wild.
You don't have to talk about him being innocent until proven guilty because we're outside of court.
He's not proven guilty. Just because you're convicted. Hold on.
So
just because you're convicted don't mean that you were proven to be guilty. No, it doesn't, because words mean things. Wait. Just because somebody was convicted, and this is the whole reason behind the Innocence Project existing in the first place, don't mean that you were proven to be guilty. Just because you secured a conviction is much different than being proven to be guilty. Words mean things. And the very fact that you're saying that it's based off of how you feel instead of based off of what the principles of the system is supposed to be in the first place shows that humans are fallible and they're inherently biased, which is one of the reasons why we have to be very, very careful when we having these conversations or we deciding who we want to convict or who to throw under the bus, because it's not about how I feel. It's about whether or not it's the truth.
No, it is about how you feel about testimonial evidence, because you have to weigh the evidence. When somebody says something to you in corporate America or a claim,
what evidence?
You have to decide whether, based on their body language or based on whatever they say, whether you believe what they say or not.
What was the evidence, though?
In the courtroom,
what was the evidence? Tell me what the evidence is.
To say, I don't believe that. I'm not going to take that into account when I make my consideration, because you know what? I don't think she made eye contact with us. It seemed like she wasn't telling the truth. Or
what was the evidence?
This witness. So
somebody tell me what the evidence is.
Based on humans making assessments about testimonial evidence in part, and then other types of evidence. So that's what
what's the evidence?
There's a video in the
what is the evidence?
How do we is the person who's now charged with manslaughter for putting Jordan Neely in a chokehold?
Oh, so we gotta go Neely. Okay, I thought we were talking
guilty
about
right now.
I thought we was talking about Tory Lanez, because he had brought it back to Tory Lanez. So I was trying to understand what the evidence was, not what the opinions of other people are, not who's incentivized in order to say something based off of who they communicating with and who their friends are and who's gonna get paid out and who's gonna be disassociated and who's no longer gonna have the clout anymore. I'm trying to understand what the evidence was. Not the court of public opinion, not social media, not what she said on your video. What was the evidence?
I would say this. If you want all the evidence, right? You want all the evidence. I would say this. And I'm done. I would say you can do a FOIA request and get all the evidence you need, and you come back on, right? Once you read through all the transcripts,
you
come back
you're the lawyer
and let us know.
You're the lawyer.
He doesn't want the facts. He doesn't want the facts.
Look, I didn't try the case. Look,
here's
what I do know in terms of fact. Whether you want to accept the fact or not. The fact is he was convicted of of the crime that he was on trial for. That's a fact, right? Another fact is he motioned to appeal for a new trial and trial was denied. That is a fact. Another fact is his sentencing is coming up. That is a fact. The other fact is that he's going to be going to jail for whatever crime he was convicted of. Now, again, in this time period, if he wants to continuously appeal, he can avail himself the full weight of the actual entire justice system and figure out a way to get himself off if he has exculpatory evidence to prove otherwise. In this case, though, as it stands at this very moment, he has offered no evidence. End of story. That's the facts that we know.
This is wild. This is wild.
What are the facts that we have?
This is absolutely wild, because I think that as educated as you are,
I think
listen.
Anton is missing the point.
No, I'm not. Listen. I know that I'm the dumbest person on this panel. That's
absolutely not.
No. Listen. I am a lifetime C student, community college graduate. Okay, so hear me out. I'm not going to even assume that I'm even in the same stratosphere as all of the panelists here tonight, because I know that Rillo is much more educated. He's much smarter, and from all appearances, he's much better looking than me, right? So we're inclined as an audience to look at him and say, you know what? I believe him. I think that this guy, considering what his credentials is, his background, his ability to be able to communicate effectively, and that he's a much better looking guy than Anton from AntonDaniels.com, is correct. However, from a C student's perspective, I'm observing one thing, and it's very difficult for me to come off of that one thing. And the one thing that I'm observing is that I know this to be true, that he's completely avoiding what it is that I asked him in the first place. And the question was, what is the evidence that we're using to convict Tory Lanez, and that we're assuming that he was innocent until proven guilty, unless we take into consideration the court of public opinion and social media? What is the evidence that he's so adamant that Tory Lanez is guilty of? Because again, just because you secure a conviction doesn't mean that you were proven to be guilty. Otherwise, we wouldn't need an innocence project, because a conviction doesn't mean that you're just completely guilty, right? And so what is this evidence? What is this wild evidence, this smoking gun that was used in order to secure this conviction for Tory Lanez, and that you're so adamant just because it's a fact that he got convicted doesn't necessarily mean that he's guilty?
I don't know, but I would say Christopher J just said it, man, because I don't know about to say anymore.
And
Like,
he's not a lawyer, and we don't know what he looks like.
yeah, I mean, like,
well, I know Christopher J, and Christopher J pays me for coaching, so I'm not necessarily taking that into consideration either.
But that's what I'm saying. You're not taking it into consideration because you have a life experience with him that makes you say, you know what? I hear what you're saying, but I don't really.
Well, he's leaning on Christopher J instead of leaning on exactly what I asked him.
That is exactly what a jury does. That is exactly why we need diverse juries, because we need a jury that's going to be able to say, based on my life experience, I'm in the Escalade. Where is the security guard at? Why he not testifying? Why y'all didn't put on your phones when all this stuff was going down? You need a diverse jury in order to make those decisions. And we don't have that, because a lot of times Black jurors or Black potential jurors disqualify themselves from participating in jury selection and then jump in the comments or come online and are all up in arms. Tory innocent, free Tory. It's like, well, when you get your jury summons, make sure you show up for jury selection. Don't self-eliminate yourself from the jury. And then you have an opportunity to have a say when it matters, when it's actually going to make a difference, as opposed to you're just saying stuff to say stuff. That's my point. That's my point, that we are making decisions. The jury is making a decision based on their life experience, based on what they're being told, because
and their bias, and their bias.
That's what a trial is.
And their bias. Add that in there.
Look, bro, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with you that people don't come in any space with biases. Like, we harbor biases. That's just a human element. I was like,
I'm glad you admitted it.
But that doesn't change my sentiments on like whether it's Tory Lanez case is, right? I think we could talk about another case, and I could tell you that, hey, this is how the facts came out, whatever the case may be. But I'm looking at the evidence presented and the evidence not presented by, which is in this case Tory Lanez, and he's put nothing forward to.
And you don't want to go to the next case. You want to stay on this one.
Well,
okay.
we can talk about Neely.
Rullo is mad because you called him handsome.
No. I mean, look. Hey, it is what it is.
Hey.
Man. I can't control anything. But I mean, we can talk about Neely, man. Honestly, I don't even know what we're talking about here about the Neely case. I mean, honestly, like, I really don't. I get it. There's another case where somebody's going to be innocent until proven guilty. But like, bro, you choke somebody out on the bus and like everybody saw it. Like, I mean, what we talking about? Oh, we gonna say that the brother stepped in as a third party kind of like savior and saved the whole train from this brother doing some like illicit and lewd acts against people and violent acts against people on the train? I don't know. I'm pretty sure that'll be somewhere in form of his affirmative defense in terms of he wasn't just defending himself. It was also people on the train. I'm pretty sure that's going to be part of the defense.
Yeah, that defense has already been introduced.
That's what I'm saying. So it's
he gave a statement prior to the charges being launched against him. He came out with a statement. He said, Jordan Neely, he's sorry to his family. He gives condolences to his family, and he didn't intend on ending his life, that he was, holding him in this manner for other authorities to come and respond to the situation. So
there goes the manslaughter, and there goes the manslaughter right there.
He didn't have
intend to
intent.
do it, but hey, heated passion though. Guess what? That's exactly what manslaughter is, folks. So you got to prove that. Hey, look, actually, even though it was in a heated passion, I was doing it in self-defense, not only myself but others on the train, right? And that some way somehow he got caught up in the whole act of like saving the day that he killed his brother. I mean, that's really what it's going to boil down to. So, I mean, I think I don't know. We'll see.
Because and things are on video, like Anton was saying, you know, it shouldn't just be testimonial evidence, right? This is a case where there's video evidence, but it's still going to have to be interpreted. So it's going to have to be interpreted in terms of, okay, we're all seeing him put Jordan Neely in a chokehold, but his interpretation is, hey, I was just holding him. I didn't mean to end his life. That wasn't my intent. I was trying to save other passengers on the train. We have to interpret a video, which, you know what else? Another case that happens in? Shankola Robinson's.
No, that's way different.
No, it's not, because
it's the same in that there's video. It's the same
an
in video
interpretation
evidence
that's being made. Even though there's a video, it still has to be interpreted. There's still going to be an interpretation of the video that's going to be given by someone's perspective that is inherently biased. And then someone's going to have to decide based on what they see and what they think, what's going on in the video, what's happening, which is what happened in the George Floyd case. Derek Chauvin introduced all this evidence to say, listen, we're all seeing him choke this guy out. That's what I saw anyways. But Derek Chauvin was like, no, that is not what you're seeing. You are seeing me trying to secure the scene and stop this man from doing XYZ. And you're actually seeing him overdosing, having a heart attack, and going into respiratory failure. That was his interpretation of what was occurring. And this is something that's on video. So it's not even what you're saying, which is we can't just have testimonial. There was a whole video. And it was still up to interpretation. It was still had to be decided whether or not what we were seeing with our own eyes was actually what we were seeing with our own eyes. So that's why I'm saying it's always going to come back to the jury. It's always going to come back to them weighing the evidence and making those decisions, and the attorneys selecting a jury that they think is going to be able to do that in as least biased manner as possible for their client, because both sides want certain things in a juror, and then the idea is that everybody's wants and needs are going to cancel out each other, and then you're going to get that neutral panel. That's the idea. Whether it happens every single time, whether there's stealth jurors who are going to go on the to voir dire and just lie because they want to be, you know, their vigilante justice is in the jury panel. I
know Anton probably watched Runaway Jury at least one too many times.
Right, we're not sophisticated enough as a community.
My dog said, "Hey man, every damn jury, a Runaway Jury." I mean, like I said, it's probably few folks that do that. I mean, honestly, you don't know, right? You really don't. But I think that, like, as somebody who sat on, you know, a few trials in my day, like, and I like, honestly,
you're not gonna talk about Tory again.
No.
Because I feel like you about to.
No.
Oh, okay.
I think generally speaking, like, the cases I've seen, the people that have been innocent, or at least like the prosecution can prove their case, they walked away scot-free. And then the folks that didn't really have a case, or really the evidence was slanted against them, I mean, it was found convicted. I mean, but I have seen cases where I'm like, damn, that person.
Did you hear that? Did you hear, Simone? Did you hear that Chris Brown got into a scuffle with Usher over was it this week or last week?
Yes, I did.
Simone, did you have an opinion? Because personally, my opinion was Usher innocent. He unproblematic. He's one of the most unproblematic celebrities we have. After whatever happened with Confessions and his baby mama, whatever, Usher was like, I'm going to just sing. I'm going to just raise my kids. I'm going to mind my business.
Absolutely.
Unproblematic. So
what they said, no, and Chris Brown, he has a bad temper and he overreacts. He's notorious for that. So what they claim had happened is that, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. So what they're claiming has happened is Chris says some people got to pushing and shoving. They were arguing as though they might fight. And so he decided that he was going to elevate the situation by yelling louder and to let people know that his kid was back there. And in doing so, Usher was like, yo, chill out. Like, chill out. Because, I mean, all sane people know the way to not get people to argue is not by yelling louder. So you were right. Chris Brown basically accelerated the situation. Usher was trying to keep it calm, and that's the real deal.
Okay. Who are the other unproblematic celebrities, Anton? Who's unproblematic?
You know, I literally just came back from Vegas from seeing Usher's residency.
How was it?
It was probably one of the best shows that I've ever been to.
Okay, but is
so
Usher?
I'm biased. I'm biased when it comes to Usher.
So someone else, two celebrities, not Usher or Chris Brown, that are unproblematic.
I mean,
unproblematic.
Yeah.
LeBron. I mean, LeBron would be, to me, he would be one of them, right? Like, I think that people may hate him for just winning whatever, you like, hate LeBron, but I think generally speaking, you're looking at somebody who just did it right. He would be a celebrity that just like is unproblematic, right? Like, he got the family, you know, Bronny's now going to college, you know, everybody's successful. He's raised his kids, like he's done his thing. He's been a good dad. And this is all outside looking in. We're not there at the household every single day. But I think LeBron would be one of the celebrities, entertainers, athletes, or whatever, that would be the one in the unproblematic category.
Yeah, there are a lot of celebrities. The problem is that we put everybody in a celebrity category nowadays because, I mean, you know, you can be big on Instagram and be a TikToker and then be labeled as a celebrity, right? And so also, I think another problem that comes along with it is that the more problematic that you are, the more popular you become as a celebrity, right? And so people are incentivized to clout chase to become more visible in order to get, you know, become even bigger in society. But I think that LeBron is probably a good example. I don't necessarily like his political stances, but I think he's a really, really good example. And one of the ways that I'm able to substantiate that he's a good example is what his wife is like, right? I think that he has probably the most perfect wife that I've ever seen a celebrity have. And she's a reflection of his drama-free life. And I think that the fact that he is a good father, the fact that he's been able to put together a really phenomenal team of people around him and even buck the trend of the idea that you can't bring people with you and help for them to grow in your success along with you, such as Rich Paul and all of the people that he surrounded himself by. I think that LeBron is largely a drama-free celebrity. And I think that Usher is a drama-free celebrity. The problem with Usher is that he decided to associate himself with people that's full of drama. So often at times, it's not necessarily you that's not drama-free, people that you surround yourself with that bring drama along with them, such as Chris Brown, because everywhere that Chris Brown goes, it's always drama, right? And so I don't think the problem is Usher. I think it's the people that he surrounds himself with.
The problem for Chris Brown?
No, the problem with Usher is the fact that he's friends with a Chris Brown.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that Usher. I think that Usher is drama free. Even when you were seeing stories come out about Usher, Usher didn't say one word.
Right.
He never had a peep. He never even like said yes, no. He didn't have a statement to go along with it. Usher don't talk. He don't kick it. He don't be out here in the streets. You don't see him getting caught up in nothing. Everything associated with Usher be the people that surround him or people that wind up getting in his vicinity. It don't be him. I think he's a drama-free celebrity. I absolutely think he's drama-free.
Okay. Who's drama-free, Simone? Who's unproblematic? Not people we said already.
I was going to say Taraji P. Henson.
Oh, no.
What did she do to you? Tell us, Antoine. Tell us, Antoine.
What does Taraji do? I don't know. I don't know what she does. What does she do?
Oh, no. Y'all don't want me to go into this.
Taraji is problematic.
I don't even know if y'all know what y'all was getting yourselves into by inviting me onto the show today. I don't know if y'all knew what y'all was getting yourselves into.
She's problematic. I had no idea.
I feel like she's just like so grown that she don't even care to be bothered half the time.
Is Angela Bassett problematic?
Oh no. She could be somebody's
Yeah, you
grandma.
I would say,
you can't really say
I would say no.
you can't really say her. You can't use any of the older.
No older people, but
No,
but people say Oprah's problematic.
you can't use her
Is
either.
that a
She's
political
older.
issue?
She's older. You can't
Okay,
use her.
so no older people. So if you
Give me anybody under
okay,
under
is
45.
Robert De Niro problematic? Because he's 79 and he just had a baby. I feel like that's problematic.
I don't think
That's
so.
problematic.
Anybody older, I think
That's
anybody
problematic.
past a certain age should be able to do
People
what
be
they want
on
to do.
Nick Cannon. People be on Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon, what are you doing? Oh my God, you got all these kids and these
So-
baby mamas.
Yo,
And
somebody
I'm like,
said,
come on, Robert, you 80. What you doing?
"Hey,
You
yo,
out
that boy."
here.
Nah, man, Robert De Niro, wild boy for that one. That's for
He's
sure. 79.
wild.
Hey, but you know what I mean? If you feel like you can still do your thing, man. By all means, brother, do your thing, man. I mean, I don't think Cirilla Monego gonna be popping out, having kids, they're doing my thing at 79. But Robert De Niro obviously excited about it. So you know what, man, do your thing, bro. Good luck.
Was
Good luck
he
to
married
you.
or was this a jump off? Like exactly, like
I don't
how
know.
did this occur?
No.
Once you reach a certain age, I think you should be able to do what you want to do whenever you want to do it.
No, he's
I don't even think it matters.
Somebody said.
I would also
Somebody
like the
said-
record. Sorry, I just want the record to reflect that when it comes to babies with difficulties, it's actually not older women that are the problem. It's old sperm. So it's
That's true.
Wait. Say that again. Say that again.
That's true though.
Statistically, it's not older women that have the difficulty with having children. It's older sperm, and it just so happens that older women they tend to date men who are also old. So that's why for years we all got it wrong.
But why would a man want to have a baby with an older woman?
I don't know. You have to ask them.
What do you
But I mean, I consider older.
Why would a man ever want to have a baby with an older woman?
Maybe he just really loves her.
Listen. The problem with relationships is that
Oh no.
they're leading with love instead of leading with purpose, right? Love is an action word. It's not a feeling, right? And I don't, if you love her, then you wouldn't be trying to have a baby with a woman that's older.
Okay. So let me ask you this question. Since Anton brought it up, he said that people are leading with love and they're not leading with, what do you say? Purpose.
With purpose.
This goes into, I wasn't going to necessarily talk about it, but let's talk about it and then we'll go.
Okay.
So, the internet was on fire this week because Ebony K. Williams had this conversation with Ayanla where she says, there it is. Would she date a bus driver?
Need to, position ourselves so that we can be in our divinity, so we can have our crowns right, how we can create and not build. When some of us, quite frankly, feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all, they are not positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not earning the incomes. They're not having the resources, and some of them are not even showing up in the leadership.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
if he owns the bus? If he owns it.
Okay.
If he owns the bus.
So to your point, right? Because the internet went on fire because everybody was like, oh my God, Ebony is being classist. Ebony is being classist. She's saying that she wouldn't date bus drivers, and that's not right because bus drivers are meant to, and whatever. And she went into her thing, and then she doubled down, and she said it had something to do with Black excellence or whatever. I personally have dated a bus driver. I've dated someone in waste management. So I go more by the connection love thing that you just said we're not supposed to do. So I'm trying to understand, what is the accurate position? Is Ebony supposed to make her decision about her partner based on whether or not the person can create stability in her life, whether or not they're emotionally stable, whether or not her and the person have a connection, whether based upon those three things, then they can build something? Or is she supposed to be like, oh, he's a bus driver? No, if he owns the bus.
Simone is acting like she don't hear the question.
I'm asking you.
I wish I could share my photo, but I'm very clear on this position. I actually covered this last week on my YouTube channel called "Girl, Is That Legal?" And in it, what I explained is I would like to rely on the advice of my mentor, the late great Whitley Gilbert. And when asked this question, she was basically asked, she said, what kind of men do you like? And she said, I want a man who is educated, ambitious, and enterprising. And so then Dwayne said, so would you date a man who's poor? And she said, that type of man is never poor. So I don't have a problem with, I feel that what she meant, she is an Ebony, what she meant when she said, if he owned the bus, that was her saying, I want a man who's enterprising. Now, for me, my response is, what I want is not career specific, right? It's those three things. You got to be educated. You got to be enterprising.
Let me switch my glasses for this one.
And that's who I date, period.
Wait, and what's who you date? Listen, you got to remember, you're no longer on a panel with just lawyers anymore. I'm a C student. You got to break it down for the C students over here.
I only date men who have that combination of being educated, ambitious, and enterprising. And to clarify, those three things are necessary, but they are not sufficient. So if you have those three things, but you're unkind or you're abusive or you're toxic, having those is not good enough.
What do you mean by educated? Like, do my community college count? Would I qualify?
No. For me, you have to have at least a bachelor's degree.
Bachelor's degree?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And why is education the barrier to entry? One of the barriers to entry.
It is a requirement because I have found that men who didn't have at least their bachelor's treated me poorly, more poorly than men who did. Because ultimately in the relationship, they felt that I or that other people in my circle, whether it was coworkers or whoever, were looking down on them when that wasn't ever the case. Also, my grandfather is extremely wise. When my parents got together, my dad had no degree, my mom did. And I remember the story of my father saying that he spent 3 days overnight with my grandpa. At the end, my grandpa said, yes, I'm going to give you her hand in marriage. But I promise you, if you don't get your degree, your marriage will fail. Not because a degree is going to make you a different person, but because if you don't have it, you will feel that you are being looked down upon. You will feel that you are being made to be less and belittled and so forth when those things aren't actually happening. But that's what you'll interpret. And I've seen it personally in other relatives' marriage where that was the dynamic. So for me, I operate in proportion, and because disproportionately that has happened to me where I have been mistreated, and I gotta decline somebody. I have to have some criteria. I choose to use the criteria where the majority of the people with those factors treat me well.
Does it matter what field of study or what kind of degree that you have, as far as like whether or not you was a liberal arts major or you got it in African American studies or
no, for me it's about the experience. Yeah, no, it doesn't matter what it's in or when you received it. For me, it's about the experience. It's about it's about educational values and those different things.
But what if I'm educated and I just don't have the
School of Hard Knocks? Me and Simone actually disagree on this point because we talk about this all the time about degrees and whether or not it matters. And I think the issue really at the end of the day that we haven't articulated, like, and when I say we, I mean as Black women, about what our standard is. It has to do with, you want to date, marry someone and start a family with someone who has some sort of track record for success in something, right? Because you have to put your faith into the person. So it's not
the problem with this is that
it's not necessarily that their track record for success has to be that they obtained a degree. For me, But they have to be able to demonstrate I can be stable enough to sustain this relationship and possibly in the future sustain a family. So I think everyone has their different lens that they say, okay, this is what's demonstrating to me that this person could be positive. And I think with black men, and that's why my position on it was, to every morning this week I went on live and I was like, good morning to the tradesmen, the longshoremen. Jesus was a carpenter. I like a man that can work with his hands. Is because for me personally, it's not about the job status of the black man. It has to do with whether or not whatever he's doing, he's demonstrated reliability, stability, success. That I think is gonna translate into our relationship and then into our family. And so a lot of times women are looking for that, and they're doing it, and they're making those evaluations with the wrong things, because they're like, oh, well, he has this or he has that, or he's been able to get this material thing, so that means X. And so I think that's really the issue, is that the thing, everybody uses a different lens to get to the same point for themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll say this too. The men that I have dated, that I've been in serious relationships with, who did not have an education, on the whole, they were financially more successful than the ones who did. So this obviously for me is not about money. So they earn more money. They all had their own businesses of various types. However, I did notice that when they were like, so one of them opened a business and then it was in the oil industry. But then when oil went down, he took it really, really tough. I've noticed that when I've dated men who didn't have degrees, their money really defined them in a very different way, because it was part of their justification for not having an education. They were like, well, I don't need that. I make more money. I hire you guys with degrees, right? But then when his money got funny, when he lost his business, when his money started going down, he couldn't function, because he wasn't just losing the money. He was losing the identity and such a large part of him. So again, it was, if I had met men without degrees who had treated me just the same, I wouldn't be having this conversation.
So basically, one of the determining factors for whether or not you want to be with a guy is how he treats you. And the way in which you substantiate that is based off of one of the ways you substantiate that is based off of whether or not he has a bachelor's degree.
No, that's not true.
You said in your experience, you said guys that have at least a bachelor's degree treat you better.
Have treated me better. Yes, correct. In my experience, that was correct.
So one of the determining factors for how a guy is going to treat you is based off of how educated he is.
Of how he's going to treat me in certain situations. No, one of a determining factor in my personal experience, yes, has been that men with degrees, in the long run, they treated me better. Correct.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna hold off on answering the question. I'm sure that Rillo has something that he wants to conclude. Well, I'm gonna just wait. I'm patient. Listen, what I've learned to be especially in the room with all of you phenomenally educated people, is to be a listener first, observe, and then make an assessment. Then, so
it's funny. This is anecdotal, but there's one reporter who works with Fox News, and she sat back all the time and watched everybody say whatever. She never came forward first, and I saw it as a tactic that she had. Not saying it's you, but it just reminded me of her. That her tactic was, let me go ahead and look at what everybody's saying, because I'm not really done my homework. So let me just wait to make sure everybody said something, and then I'll jump in. And that was her all the time. Anton, I'm not saying that's you, but just the way in which you approached that reminded me of her in that moment. But anywho, I think for me though, like I think for me, would I date someone or whatever it is? I mean, the answer I think is yes, because I have, right? I think that typically I don't, because of just my circles, right? Like typically you date people who you are usually around and you mingle with, right? I'm not on Hinge, or whatever, right? So my circles are my circles, and so that's what I've normally dated. But I mean, would I? Yeah. So I mean, that kind of answered that question. And then anyway,
Would you
next.
what?
The question is, would you date somebody that was like, I guess, less educated? Because I mean, at this point though, I never knew a woman or a person that wants to be called a woman, I should say these days, that was a longshoreman or worked for waste management or was a bus driver, right? I don't. I know that there are women that do, but I don't. And so that was never really anything like at my disposal. But I mean, in terms of more trade jobs, though, I've had women in the past that were like, what do you call them, beauticians or hairstyle, whatever it is, like that were more in the trade class. But I mean, but I mean, at the end of the day, like I think everything that we do is a damn trade. I mean, we've made work in a way in which like that if you do this, then your work is less dignified than this work. And I'm like, look, if you progressing and every single day you waking up trying to be a better human, right? And you trying to like move in a way in which there's like you know what I'm saying? Like I think the idea for me is somebody willing to wake up every day to get better. I think I couldn't be with somebody long term where the moment they stop trying is the moment you ain't doing it for me anymore. Like you gotta
Right.
want it. And I think that whatever that is for you, God bless you, and I'll be there to support you. But when you go, and I think there's difference between being in a rut and being depressed and then working out of that depression. I think it's a total different space of literally you making the conscious decision of going like, I'm not even gonna try. And that to me is nah, it just because it's not good for my spirit. I don't like to be in those kind of spaces, and so I just rather not be in a relationship with somebody like that. We could be cool, but we ain't gonna be in a relationship. That's for sure.
The interesting thing about this conversation is that I broke this down um, probably in a 2 hour live stream the other day. Um, and so I'm intimately familiar with not only how it is that she communicated with Ayanna Van Zant, but I'm also very, very aware of how it is that she responded to it. And then when she went on the Breakfast Club and then tried to substantiate her argument by moving the goalposts. So not knowing exactly, what's going to be communicated based off of, my understanding or lack thereof of what it is that she said is a moot argument. It's a moot point. It doesn't actually apply to me whatsoever because I understand human behavior and I understand people much more effectively than I understand the law. So with that being said, what people don't understand is that it has nothing to do, and this is what women don't understand, right? More importantly, guys, especially those type of guys that have some kind of substance, we don't really care about what you do for a living, right? And so it's weird that you answered it like that, Rillo, because the question really was to the women, because the thing that women look for is much different than the thing that men look for inherently, not only in a person that they have in a relationship with, but also a spouse, right? Women tend to look for provision and protection, amongst other things, and then men look for peace and other things that you can add value to, depending on if you're an alpha or if you're a beta, right? But the problem wasn't whether or not she has a preference or not, because I think that everybody should have a preference. The problem was her attitude. It was how she answered the question, because body language is 90% of communication and the other 10% is how it is that you say it or what it is that you say, right? And so the fact that she refused to answer the question when Ayanna Van Zandt asked her as though it was somebody else on a live stream was the first red flag. How she posed the question in the first place and then tried to move the goalposts and started trying to make it seem like it was Black excellence is the second red flag. And then the third red flag, in that she didn't ask additional questions or get more insight so that she can provide more context. Instead, she says he has to own the bus as though that means anything, is the third red flag. And so what guys tend to avoid, especially considering that we're not looking for resources unless you're looking for a partner and you're not looking for a husband, what guys tend to avoid is toxic women. And usually that comes along with how they do things and their attitude, right? I don't care how much money you make. I don't even care what you do for a living. And the reason that I don't care is because I don't need you in order for us to not only survive, but also thrive, right? I need you to be a whole person. And what you're communicating to me in your actions and how it is that you answer, especially with your attitude, is that you have a bias or a disdain for a certain group of people that you cannot hide. And it is coming all out, not necessarily in what it is that you're saying, but how it is that you're saying it. And so what guys tend to avoid are these type of women that come in trying to trauma bond and then look for a guy as a come up and then try to substantiate whether or not he's worthy of talking to them by all of these other superficial things that doesn't define exactly what a man is, right? A man is not defined. A real man is not defined by a title. We also understand that an education is not necessarily something that we can use to substantiate whether or not we real men or not, because an education is literally just a barrier to entry for you to be able to actually have the opportunity to earn and then move up in corporate America. There's plenty of people that's educated that got a lot of debt. There's plenty of people that's educated and then they got a master's degree and they're only making $40,000. Your inability to hold on. Your inability to have great decision making. There's plenty of people that went and got educated and got a bachelor's degree because somebody else told them that that's what they were supposed to do. And it's not even a pure thought of their own. They don't even know how to think for themselves, right? They picked the wrong college. They chose to go to a major university and incur a lot of debt for a specific degree that didn't even pay off, instead of going to community college for the first 2 years and then transferring over so you can complete your general education requirements. And then you can mitigate the amount of money that you're spending on that education so that you don't have to ask Biden for forgiveness, right? So my point is that instead of looking for the context to understand why that man is in the position that he's in or why he chose to go down that path, we then substantiate our argument by defining a man according to his title or whether or not we think that he's good enough for them, which is why women. Hold on.
The question, because I asked you if Ebony was doing it out of what she was doing.
I'm gonna land the plane for you. Okay. Instead of women being able to ask for the context, which is one of the reasons why they often need a man in their life to help them choose for them. Mm-hmm. They then lean into the things in their own understanding. And 9 times out of 10, when you let a woman choose for herself, she's going to choose wrong. That's why often at times the most successful marriages is when parents are involved, and then it's called a groom. When you go to a wedding or you go to the altar, he's grooming her. He's still over her. He's still provisioning and protecting her, right? When that father walks a woman down the aisle, literally, it's cover to cover. He's passing him over into a man that's worthy of his daughter, that is then able to, to continue the success of what it is that he's been able to do as far as putting his daughter in a position of power by allowing a groom to continue to still be over her. So the fact that she answered it the way that she answered it, instead of actually substantiating her argument by adding context to it, shows that she's not worthy of a man that is a bus driver, that is worthy of marriage, that is on a trajectory to success. And success is never defined by how it is that we put a piece of paper on our name or how it is that we title ourselves. It's how it is that we go about adding value in other people's lives and then leaving this earth in a better space had we not been here. So she's not worthy of marriage, in my opinion, because any good man should never subject themselves to the type of woman that has the attitude that she has. And we can always tell, every man that is worth his salt can always tell whether or not a woman is worthy of being in his presence by how she acts, not necessarily what she does, because we're not looking for you in order to provide. We're looking for you to continue to add value. And that's the difference between a wife and a modern woman. It's a big difference, a huge difference.
Listen, I'm with you with respect to what having context. I'm big on context in dating. I think it's super important. You know, I've been in situations where people are like, hey, grown ass men, I have a roommate, you know, I live with another person, and you need context for that because you don't know if the person's living with a roommate while they're looking for something else, or because they're saving money, because they're doing something for their business. You don't know. So I agree with you. I think there always has to be context when you're choosing. But what I was asking and what I was saying is Ebony's point and perspective of, I want someone who owns the bus outside of her attitude. Is she choosing based on the love, the emotions, the connections, or is she being logical and saying, well, somebody who owns the bus is theoretically going to have more to offer me and more with respect to the stability, which was your point. You were saying people are making relationship decisions based on logic as opposed to love and connection. So I'm trying to understand what your position on it is.
Owning the bus doesn't mean that you're successful.
Are women supposed to be looking for love connection that is going to foster a stable environment, a stable family unit, or are they supposed to be going down a list and saying, okay, what is the thing? 6 feet, 6 figures. Whatever the stupid lists are, because I don't know, but because I don't use them. But you know what I'm talking about.
I think that most women have already passed up on the man that they were supposed to marry. So the question is moot. But the other side of that equation, though, is women by nature are naturally hypergamous, meaning that they already going into it with a business mindset inherently. The very idea that they look the very idea that they're looking for provision and protection means that they're looking for the best available option. They're already making a business decision based off of what's best for them, not going into it based off of love, right? And you shouldn't even go into a marriage or a relationship looking for love, because love comes along with whatever connection that you have with the person that you build over a period of time. You can hang out with somebody and spend a whole lot of time with somebody and start to like them just based off of their personality.
So it is supposed to be based off of, it is supposed to be a business decision.
It is. It's just 100%. But the way that they look at it means that they're not really good at making business decisions.
Ebony's making a business decision because she's saying,
but it's not. What I'm saying is that they're looking at it from a business perspective, but they don't know how to make the right business decision. They want that, but they don't know how to get it.
Okay, so I think it's important to also know the person who owns the bus as is not a business decision. It's something else.
No, because listen, there's plenty of people that have their own business, but they broke. It's not about how much, whether or not he owns the bus. No, it's about whether or not he has enough.
Adding to the hypothetical. I'm talking about when Ayanla says, listen, would you just date a man even if, quote unquote, even though I don't agree, that he's a bus driver? And then she's supposed to say,
she turned her nose up.
She's supposed to say, I would give every man an opportunity to see whether or not we have, a connection and a bond, and then develop it from there, which it would be like a love answer. Or is it what you're saying, which is she's like,
turned her nose up, though.
I need to pick the person who has the most money and who can make the most provision for me and whoever my family's going to be. That's what I'm saying. You're almost agreeing with her. You're agreeing.
Sue Ann, but what I'm telling you is that what she don't realize is that she not the prize, he is. And so she answering it like she's the prize, and she's not. It's her attitude that shows that she's not. She's not even worth. Listen, you can want whatever you want. We all want something, but it don't necessarily mean that we gonna get it or that we deserve it. You get what you earn. You are what you attract. And so her attitude, and this is the thing that men are complaining about. It's not what your preference is. It's your attitude that then defines whether or not you're going to get what it is that you're supposed to have. Even in business, if you go into anywhere and you build in a relationship, we had this conversation in the very beginning of this live stream. You said it's based off of relationships. You said it's based off of networking. You said it's based off of connection. What people do for you is largely going to be determined by how it is that you treat them and how you present yourself. And if you present yourself with a nasty attitude, chances are, whether you're in a relationship, corporate America, law, or you just in college, you're not going to get the results that you want. And instead of us having conversations to teach women how to present themselves, because the men that want them is not defining it by what it is that they do for a living, we're having conversations based off of his profession. And I
don't agree with having a conversation based off of anyone's profession, if that wasn't clear enough. But what I'm saying is, if Ebony wrote it on a paper, right? She wrote it down on a paper. I would not date a bus driver. I would only date someone who was a successful entrepreneur, such as someone running a bus company making at least 7 figures. You would agree with that. Because that would be a business decision.
No, because it doesn't mean that she's worthy of a dude that's actually making seven figures.
I'm not debating whether or not
a good business decision. A good business decision.
She's making her choice based on a rubric that you think is appropriate, because you're saying
no, I'm saying that it's not appropriate, because chances are that would I ever apply to work for a law firm? Absolutely not, because I don't qualify. That's a bad business decision and I'm wasting my time, right? What I should be applying to do is to align myself more along the lines of something that I actually qualify for. That's a better business decision because I'm gonna have a better outcome long term. And so just because you have a preference doesn't mean that you actually qualify for the thing that you want. Women can want a bunch of millionaires, but it's not enough of them to go around. And so as a better business decision would be to align yourself with somebody that you can build with.
Okay.
That would also at one point or at some point in their life maybe grow to be a seven-figure dude. But they don't have that level of humility. They already qualifying guys based off of the title, their degrees, and what it is that they do for a living.
But
why they missing out on the guys that they supposed to have.
I think the purpose of the conversation is exactly what you're saying, which is for you to be able to say, hey, this is a better way to use a rubric to make your selection or to have your standard. Or so that's the only reason why I'm harping on that. I'm saying, is she supposed to be, or anyone, is the woman supposed to be saying, what's his potential, what's his future earning potential, or what's his future potential for growth, what's our future potential together? Or is she strictly supposed to be saying, we have a good connection, I love this person, we'll figure it out? You're saying it should be a business decision.
Right, but a business decision is not always cut and dry, black and white, the way that we paint it. It's not always based off of what he makes, right?
Kind of like trials.
There we go.
Nothing like
circle back to it.
But I also find it very interesting that in all of this discussion, no one has been talking about growing apart. And so for me, the foundational things that I want, I recognize that I'm going to continue to grow, and I want to be with a man who hopefully grows in the same direction as me in ways where we continue to be compatible despite our growth. So I think that when you're talking about whether it's education or whatever your qualities are, know yourself and think to yourself, what are some of the qualities that I would like to see in a partner so that we can both grow together?
But what if he outgrows you? And what if you no longer, based off of how it is that you just defined it, what if you're no longer worthy to stand next to him based off of where it is that he is in his life? Is he supposed to leave you?
Well, I think that's something that happens in relationships all the time, but I think you at least owe it to yourself to at least explore and make an attempt at being in a relationship where you both are growing similarly. So
here's the problem with that. Here's the problem. In my personal opinion, marriage is not about finding partnership. It's about finding a husband and finding a wife. And those roles are very, very, very clearly defined, right? And so I find marriage to be a sense of duty. I find love to be an action word, right? When I give my word, when you gave your word, right, and you took your oath to become a lawyer, you swore to uphold whatever those principles are or whatever it is, or in order to continue to be a lawyer or take the bar. I don't know what y'all do, right? But I know that at some point, you are held to a higher standard as a result of being a lawyer. And it's the same thing when it comes to marriage. You say till death do us part, and in sickness and in health, for richer or for poor, right? I don't believe in getting divorced. I don't believe in ever leaving. I don't believe in outgrowing. We going in this same direction together. It's me and you till death do us part. Ain't no other options. Ain't no plan B. Ain't no divorce. Ain't nothing except for me and you till death do us part. And that's why when I got married when I was 22 years old, and I'm 41 years old today, I am blissfully married. And my wife does not have an education as far as higher education and a degree and all of this other type of stuff. and I am wildly successful. And it's because we've defined our roles, and we don't look at each other as better than each other, but we understand that I'm a man and she's a woman, and it's not a partnership. It's a defined thing that allows for us to be successful because we truly live in our purpose of what a relationship is supposed to be. And so there will never be a divorce. I will never get divorced. There is no other option. And there is a sense of duty because we both took vows before God in front of witnesses that said that this is what we're going to do. So it ain't no outgrowing her. I'm dragging her ass along with me if she's not what it is that she needs to be at that time. And then if I'm not what it is that I need to be at that time, then she going to support me. She going to get behind me, and she going to continue to push me until I continue to be that thing. Marriage is not how it is that we define it in modern society today. It is a sense of purpose. And until we really understand what we get into, we will never ever be what we're supposed to be.
It's not a business decision. If you're
It is a business decision.
Purpose, if you're saying it's a sense of purpose, then that's coming more from an emotion, a feeling, something you're passionate about. That's not saying I saw my wife and I was like, you know what? I think that she's going to be able to make really good meatloaf. She can, cook. She can clean. So I'm going to.
When you sign that contract that says that you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do, is that a business decision or is that a sense of emotion?
When? What thing?
When you sign a contract.
I personally think that business is very personal because
when you sign a contract, is that a business decision or is it a personal decision?
I think it's both.
Exactly. So just because you're leading with business first does not mean that it's not personal. Just because I understand that marriage is a business first, don't mean that I don't love my wife. It's both. I didn't think but it has to be business first because the business will keep you when the love is no longer there. When you get mad at that person, you're not just going to walk out the door because your vows and you gave your word and you have to keep your word, which is the thing that's going to continue to define whether or not you really who you say you was when you got married, because that oath meant something. And so it's both, but you still lead with the business first and the business will keep you when the character doesn't. When you fall,
I think we're saying the same thing because I'm saying women are looking for their partner based on whatever they perceive is this man has a track record for success or he can take our family in a successful way. And some people are saying, well, if he completed a degree, and some people are saying, well, if he holds XYZ type of job, and some people are saying, well, you know what, if he can surf or if he learned how to do something extremely difficult, like dancing with fire, that means to that individual person based on their life experience that if they partner with this person, that's going to lead them on a trajectory for stability and success, whatever the definition is within their relationship. So I don't think we're saying different things. I think that we're saying the exact same thing. I think the issue is that we need to teach modern women versus wives, modern women how to.
Let me ask you a question, Suwan.
How to articulate what it is that they're actually looking for, because what they're actually looking for is someone who can offer and who can say, okay, you know, this is what I have going on. This is the vision. This would be my vision if I'm with you.
Let me ask you a question, Suwan. Mm-hmm. What if y'all go broke? What if somebody gets sick? Then what happens?
Then I definitely think you have to have an actual relationship. You have to actually have a connection with the person.
No, because again, you're saying that
build it back.
You're saying that this is about who's going to be a good family man, who's going to take care of the family, who's going to all of this other type of stuff, all of this stuff. What happens when somebody cheats? Do you get divorced? What happens when somebody goes broke? What happens if somebody gets super sick? Do you outgrow that person? Do you then move on? Do you make modifications? Do we get divorced? Do we then depend on, because everything that I'm hearing is based off of what's best for me, right? I'm not hearing a sense of purpose with regard to how a relationship is supposed to work. And I even keep hearing the word partner. We not partners. I am your husband and you are my wife. It is a difference. It is a huge difference. This is not a 50. It will never be equal. It will never be 50-50. It is never going to be that way. And so what happens when these life events hit you? How do you, what happens when they came into this relationship and they said, I wanted you to be a great family man, and you find out that she can't have kids? What happens then?
I am going to let Cirillo and Simone go so we can close.
Thank you.
Yo,
This is extremely dynamic. You guys have a great night, and make sure to check out my YouTube channel. Girl, is that legal? Next week we'll have a new. I'll be revealing new background check results on someone whose significant other is nowhere near who they thought they would be. So, see you guys later.
Oh, yeah. I'm be on the lookout for that one. But yeah, well, one, Sue, thanks so much for inviting me on today.
Thank you,
It's always
Cirillo.
good to see you.
Thank you,
Anytime, good to
Simone.
meet you, brother. Appreciate your insight and all your thoughts. But look, y'all can follow me across all social media platforms. It's just my first and last name. If y'all want to drop it in the actual comments, cool. If not, it's okay. Also, follow Black with No Chaser across all social media platforms. Subscribe on our website. Please do that. Yeah, until next time, man. Be out.
Thank you, Rillo.
Did you have fun, Saran?
I can answer your question.
Did you have fun?
Well, I want to answer your question.
Yeah, I'm assuming that you still gonna answer the question, but I don't want to forget. Listen, you got to remember, I'm a C student.
Of course, I had fun. Of course, I had fun. We won't talk about my grades. I did go to community college, but I went to community college while I was in high school.
Oh,
so I was
dope.
a baby when I got to the highest of 7 hills at Florida A&M University, and got through my 2 years and got to law school. I was very young because I went quickly, but absolutely did save that extra money. So I agree with you on that point. And I think that people should pursue whatever path they're passionate about and what aligns with their purpose. So I agree with you on that point as well. And I think that if you're within the sanctity of your marriage and your commitment, I think that if you selected properly from the beginning, then when you have your trials and tribulations and you have your problems, then you're able to resolve it, right? You go through what you have to go through. Somebody gets sick, then you figure it out. If you got to get help, if you have to move to closer to a hospital or whatever it is, if you go broke and that's your person that you selected properly, then you guys are able to say, okay, well, let's do this, or let's get this type of investment, or let's go watch Anton and see what he says about investments, and let's try to do that, because you have the proper synergy, because you selected the person based on something other than this is what he got, or this is what she got, or she got a big booty, or she whatever. I think it's more to it that our community completely misses, because capitalism has us in a chokehold. So we don't get the opportunity to make those decisions based on connection, because everybody's doing it based off of survival and based off of how are we going to get this house, how are we going to be able to get this, or how are we going to be able to do that, or how are we going to be able to go to Mexico on vacation, or how are we going to be able to do whatever. We as a community don't get the opportunity to make decisions just not based on that, not based on any of that, because we are in capitalism. So everybody is, like you said, trying to make the best decision to end up at a certain place economically or financially, as opposed to saying, do I have a connection with this person? Whether they're a bus driver or whether they're a welder or whether the person's a lawyer, like, do I actually connect with this person? And if you don't connect with the person, then like, if he starts as a bus driver and then ends up owning a bus company, y'all are going to be good if you actually have a connection with the person. But I don't think people are making the decisions based upon connection. They're making the decisions based upon what everybody else is saying and what everybody else is seeing, as opposed to them and the person's interaction. And that was always my issue with Ebony's response, because I feel like her attitude is that she is trying to give an answer that she has to give, because, oh, well, I'm an attorney, so of course I'm not going to date a bus driver. That's where she's responding, as opposed to saying, you know what, if he was handsome and he took care of me and you know, me and him had a good connection and we really vibed, I wouldn't really care. I wouldn't really care. But she went straight into an economic capitalism response, like, oh, he's got to own and then double down with the whole Black excellence and what's going on in the economy. Like, we're obviously in you know, there's something called systemic oppression. Like, everybody's constantly talking about the statistics and what's going on and how, you know, there's a wealth gap and all that stuff. So that's why I think it's important for you, Anton, to use your platform to say, yo, we do have to be making these decisions about who we're going to form a family with based upon something other than this system that we're saying is for shit. The system that we're saying is horrible, that doesn't work for us, that doesn't give us the equality, that doesn't give us fair trials. We're walking around making relationship decisions based upon those things. And so my point is why that's why you need context. That's why, you know, I appreciate the conversation. That's why I can say, like, I've honestly dated across the spectrum in terms of men, and I've had good connections with people who don't have degrees, good connections with people that do have degrees. And so I don't use that. I honestly really try to always use context and say, do me and this person have a synergy? Because I think with Black love is the synergy and what the synergy can kind of create within the system, because we know we're in the system. So like you said, if somebody gets sick, if somebody goes broke, it's like we're good because we have a particular purpose, like what you're saying, and a particular synergy. So I feel like using your platform to say to the people who you are describing as modern women, I've been called a pick-me. I was on a whole dating show where everybody was like, oh, well, Suanne's a pick-me because she just wants to get picked by men. That's why she's saying that stuff, whatever. And I was like, I don't know what a pick-me is. I still don't know what it exactly means. I don't know what a modern woman is. I just know that if I'm in dating, my criteria has to do with whether he has a strong heart, whether he has a strong mind. And then I always say strong back to be funny. But it just has to do with that. Because I think that if you have a good connection, then whatever happens, the person has good, you know, you and the person have good synergy. You can have communication to resolve whatever it is.
Right. Okay. I'm feeling it. I got you, Sue.
Do you have fun is the real question.
This is what I do. Listen, I haven't been able to necessarily cook lately on panels like I've or have these type of conversations lately on panels. I've been isolated a little bit away from them, so you know, I'm feeling like I'm in my element again. This is what I do. So.
Okay, well you are welcome anytime. Why do you think?
I don't know about that, Sue. Listen, I don't know. We might have to check on Rillo and
no, they're fine. It's just super late. I think it's super late. Why do you think the panels are important? Why do you think the panels are important? And I could tell you why I think so, but I'm curious because obviously you start this, like you said, this is what you do. Why do you think it's important for us to be having these type of conversations? And then for everyone who's in the comments and gets to go back and forth and, you know, have their opinion, why do you think it's important?
I don't think you want me to answer that question, Sue.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna sidestep that one. No, you don't want me to answer that.
You don't think it's important? Is that what you're gonna say?
I don't think that everybody is built for this.
Okay.
I don't think that everybody, especially if I show up, because
why?
Because I'm a spirited, passionate. You know, I think that I'm pretty well. I have a good understanding of most of what's happening in society, right?
Okay.
And sometimes I think that people unknowingly get on a panel and then they may think it's going to go one way and it's going to go the other way. But the problem is that for me, the only thing I care about is the results. I don't necessarily care about, feelings or anything like that. So when I get it, when I get the rolling, I'm a cook. I'm gonna do what I do. You know what I'm saying? So it just sometimes it go one way or it can go the other way, and I just want to make sure that everybody is fine. I want to make sure everybody
No,
is good.
everybody is fine. No, listen, if anybody is fine, it's Simone and Rillo. Trust me. And especially because of our profession and stuff, very, very thick skins. We have to deal with being black in the profession. So you're always undervalued and always step in wrong. So that's fine. There's no issues. Everyone is cool. Everyone is fine. The other people on the panel argue for a living. That's what we do. Debate and go back and forth. And sometimes play the devil's advocate just to have the conversation. So everybody is fine. There's nobody that is flatlining based off of our
No, I'm sure everybody is fine. I just, want to make sure that everybody is good.
No. We're good. We're good. Everybody's good. I'm good. I had a good time. Like I said in the beginning, this for me is like therapeutic because I don't have the opportunity a lot of times in the space that I'm in with the work that I do to just be able to kind of talk about whatever I want. The expectation is that I talk about one single thing, which is work at all times. So I appreciate it. And I would say I think the panels are important for the viewers and the people that kind of get to hear our opinions and express their opinions in the comments and get to ask questions, which I'm still learning how to do everything and read the questions and stuff like that. So I appreciate it. I
never look at the comments when I'm on panels.
Okay, don't look at the comments. Okay.
I never ever look at the comments when I'm on panels.
Okay,
because I become so immersed in the conversation that's all I can think about. That's all I focus on. It's almost like I've trained myself to do it. I do it when I'm on my own show, like it's just me and I'm the only person because I interact with the audience in order to be able to, it just gives I think it gives the show a little bit more juice. Because you can actually participate with the people that's watching or whatever like that. But whenever I'm on like a panel or I'm having conversations, I never look at the chat.
Okay. And then, so do you read the super chats? How does it go? Because I'm new. On
the panels, I don't have to worry about the super chats. You know what I'm saying? But when I'm on my own show, I do have to pay attention because I do need to read the super chats and stuff.
Okay, like because you're answering the questions from there.
Yeah. Usually when I'm on a panel, I don't have to worry about the controls. I don't have to worry about none of that. I can just focus 100% on the conversation. Now, if you're the host of the panel, then it's a little bit different. You got to kind of pay attention to and take care of all of that other type of stuff. But when I can get on the panel, I can just cook.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you cooking with me at the adult table very, very much.
Well, listen, I love you. Let me know if you ever want. When do you do these? You do them on Thursdays? Every Thursday? Every
other Thursday.
You do every other Thursday?
Yes. And then, I'm going to work on.
Why every other Thursday?
It's a real reason. You really want to know the real reason?
Yeah.
So because I have two minis. And so I kind of give them a focus week and a focus. So even with work travel, I won't travel. I have a week off from traveling for work, but I'll be in the office. But I don't travel for work on 1 week. Just so I can create more balance because it's kind of key. As a mom, dads can obviously create their own balance, but it works for my family to kind of.
Sue, if we did this on Thursday nights,
yes,
I think we could kick a lot of these other shows' ass and absolutely destroy everybody else.
I mean, I'm down. Let me know.
So I'm trying to tell you, we can absolutely destroy anything else that's going on.
I'm all about a man with vision. If that's what the vision is, I can move with a vision. So just holler at me. Not the evil laugh. Oh no, not the evil laugh. No, seriously. That's what's up.
So we'll talk about it. I'll contemplate it. We'll see. what happens. We'll figure it out.
Okay, and you're coming, and you're definitely coming to DC because you promised me that you were going to come to DC.
Yeah, on the 19th.
Mm-hmm. And so Anton mates or whatever they're called, I don't know. Bag chasers, you hold Anton.
Shout out to the bag chasers.
He better be there so that he can support the family and stand up and give a few words of support and tell the administration, y'all better get it together.
All right, we'll figure it out.
I'm gonna make sure the bag chasers on you because I'm gonna get Andre to be in your comments like, hold on, is it May 18th? You got your plane ticket? Is you on your way?
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We're gonna figure it out.
Okay, bag chasers.
We got some stuff. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna work through some stuff and maybe put a couple of tricks up our sleeve.
For sure.
You know what? So wait, Sue, are you what is that ring on your finger?
Oh wow. Okay. You want to know about my jewelry? Well,
Yeah.
This happens to be my college ring.
You available?
Available to do what?
Are you available
For what?
for people seeking your affection?
To what end?
What do you mean to what end? To the best
To
thing.
what end? I mean, to what end? Like, to what end?
To all ends. What do you mean?
Listen, I need specificity. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to find out what the vision is. What do you mean?
Because you a cute girl. What you
Okay.
talking about?
I appreciate you. I am. Thank you.
Do you get compliments a lot?
On looks?
Yeah.
Sometimes. It just depends.
I think you got that ring on so that you can play defense.
What?
I think you got the ring on so you can play defense.
Defense? That's crazy.
No, it
Who
ain't.
wants to be on the defense out here?
I think that you playing defense.
That's very interesting.
Why you just not getting into YouTube?
Well, actually, two of my friends are very into this space, and I used to be on radio for a long time, and they're like, "You should do a YouTube channel." This is like 4 years ago, and I was like, "I don't need to YT because I'm on the air. I don't need to do that." Like, and I anchored a morning show in Miami, and I was on the radio, and I was like, "I
think
don't
you're
need
great.
to
I
do
think
all
you're
that."
on YouTube.
So, but I do now, and I use it kind of as my therapy to kind of, like I said, have just conversations that aren't as heavy as, you know, how am I going to defeat systemic oppression today?
Oh, I got you. I think the more that you hang around me, the more that you're gonna evolve. You're gonna change a lot.
Okay.
I think you're gonna change significantly.
Is that gonna be in a good way? Because you did an evil.
I don't know if that's good.
Concerning. I'm concerned about the evil laugh. I feel like I'm gonna ask Andre.
I promise you, you're gonna have fun. How about that? I promise you, the more that you're around me, where you at? You in DC?
No, I am in South Florida.
Miami?
Yes.
I'm in Miami all the time. I think the more that you're around me, you're gonna evolve. And I promise you, listen, above all, it's gonna be such a fun ride. It's gonna be incredible. It's gonna be an incredible ride. You're gonna have so much fun. You're gonna have more fun than you ever had in your entire life.
Wow.
I promise you that.
As long as along the way we can help our people, I'm with it.
Yeah, we can help everybody.
I'm with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm with it too.
Well, I appreciate you.
All right, so
okay.
do I have to be in DC on the 19th?
Listen, Anton. Don't do it. Just make it happen. Be a man of your word. That's it. That's it.
We may have to make these Thursdays a little bit more frequent, but we'll figure that out. I don't know. We got to figure that out.
May 19th is a Friday. It's not a Thursday. I can bring my stuff. I can broadcast from the hotel in DC.
You want to link up? You want to shoot some stuff in DC?
We can pack all this shit up and take it with us. You let me know. Okay, we don't have to decide right now.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
You let me know. Okay, but you owe it to the Bag Chasers. And
I'm gonna be in DC. Listen. I am a man of my word, and when I say that I'm coming to kick it, I'm coming to kick it.
I know you are. 8:30 a.m. I'll see you there.
All right, bet.
All right, appreciate you guys. Appreciate everybody for liking and subscribing, and of course, appreciate all my guests and Anton Daniels. Thank you very, very much. I'm out.
Let's go shorty.